points that we'll be covering, and then of course, you guys being doctors will give their thoughts. So the first point is the discussion on a Uniform Determination of Death Act. And I think we'll all speak a little loudly because it's quite a large area, So in the United States, the position of law is that they have a Uniform Determination of Death Act that has specified how death has to be seen. And there's a difference between UK law and Indian law, which is not relevant for this, but understanding background. The brainstem there.
I'll start.
So the discussion today is why the Act in India has a defined procedure of how brainstem death has to be identified. It is not clear as to what has to be done with that. We know that there are 4 doctors who form a panel and they can diagnose, but when do they do that? What is the trigger for that? The law does not make it mandatory for either the patient's family or for the doctors to go about declaring death, and the patient is still kept on ventilator. That is, of course, hindrance to organ donation sometimes. So your thoughts on that will be making on this point.
Basically.
The other point is, does the law need to make this declaration mandatory? Because on the ground, doctors face a lot of resistance when a patient is actually technically dead. Families may still resist saying this is not death. So can the law make it mandatory, which will facilitate organ donation? If the law requires hospitals to declare death, then the patient's family can't say, why are you declaring this person dead? The next point is whether we can increase organ donation through what is called circulatory death. Do we need to introduce that as a concept in the law? Is that required, and if so, why? And what are the other things to be kept in mind if that is to be introduced? And the last point is strengthening the legal framework in terms of approaching families, because they need to consent. And we have presently a situation where even if a person has a will where he has donated organs, the family's consent is sought again. So what problems are faced in that? Should we have something like a mandatory deeming provision in law? If somebody has made a will, then should that be the last word? And what problems you face practically regarding this? That is what we discuss. So please start.
Thanks everyone. Friends, I am Advocate Mahendra Bajpayee. I happen to be the honorary director of this institute. This session is different in 2 ways, or rather 3 ways. The first is, I and Dr. Harsh, we clashed in a public meeting just 2 days back. Second, this topic is very important, very relevant in today's India. And the third most important thing is, and that from an organizational perspective, is that this is one of the sessions where we did not hold a pre-NCML session. Unlike other sessions which are happening here, where we had called small groups of doctors 3 months back, 2 months back, and the doctors sat around, discussed, deliberated, and they came up with issues of importance. Unfortunately, we could not organize a session for transplantation of human organs, and so that is why you all are here without the requisite background work being done. It's not that the requisite background has not been created. Sangeeta and her team, Arunava and Sugandhi, for the last 1.5 months, they have been interacting, meeting doctors, speaking with them. Friends, very briefly, I would like to introduce this concept of NCML. Please understand that we are in a functional democracy. And in a democracy, there is a way to bring about change. One way is you vote. You cast your vote and you change the governments. And yes, if you have cast vote for poverty eradication, the government should ideally, morally work for that. If you have cast your vote for development, the government should work for that. But certainly in democracy there is another way also by which change comes. And that is interested groups should form small caucuses, small groups, associations, create awareness. And this awareness will indirectly force the policymakers to change the policy. And we are here for creating this awareness, for raising issues of concern in healthcare and very specifically legal issues. We have your advocate just to ensure that you understand the difference between legislation and execution, the difference between execution and judiciary. We understand you are doctors, you are not aware of the difference between both, and in fact even advocates at times are not aware of the line dividing execution and legislation. So the legal persons here, Dr. Sugandhi herself is a doctor as well as a lawyer. We have ensured that they will ensure that the discussions remain within the four corners of law. One question before you ask, which obviously would be there in your minds. What are we going to do after this session? Number one, today we are fortunate that Chairman of the Law Commission of India is here with us. Law Commission of India is a constitutional body which advises the government of India on legal reforms. So in a way, the apex body, the apex person responsible for legal changes here, he has come all the way from Delhi. In fact, we had invited him for the ceremonial function that we will be holding 2 weeks hereafter at Delhi. He said, no, I want to come there, I want to listen to what doctors really are facing problems at ground zero. We have one member of Law Commission, only one member, he is also here, Justice Department. But that would not be all. After this convention, whatever is being video recorded here, we will take it to the government authorities, to NCI wherever it's possible. We will try to create awareness. And we have tied up with an NGO known as HOP, again run by a doctor, which is very proactive in pressing issues. So with that, for the next 1 year, whatever issues you have decided on social media, organizing small chats, conferences, meeting the policymakers. In fact, 2 members of parliaments are going to be here. One of them is the former Union Health Minister, Dr. Abdullah Ablos. He is there in the intensivist session, and later he will join here also. So we try to form that pressure. This is merely a start for the benefit of everybody, not only of doctors, not only of hospitals, but patients and society too. Thank you, and all the best. Please carry.
Good morning, friends. As Mr. Vajpayee basically the issues which the raises cases with all the suggestions that would come from one and all of this how to improve facilitate transplant easily, facilitate transplant easily, and other issues which each of the doctors are facing. Any suggestions are to overcome. It will be a brainstorming session, and then these suggestions will be taken by the fireman for. Of course, each and everyone has a background and right from 1995 and 2008, the bill in 2011 and amended issues and organ rules of 2002. And I'm sure each and everyone is presently aware of all of them. And therefore, invite sir, from each and every one of what you would suggest, what are the speed breakers face, and what suggestions on the program.
I think we can round to sides. In declaring the brainstem death, that issue is very much pressing and even at many places. So it is there because many of them are not convinced about brainstem death. That is a real hard fact. And so that issue we can sort out whatever with your help. So we can have a round of introduction. Sir, though our names are there, but still, yeah, sir.
Then after that, I am a surgeon involved in liver transplantation, also joint secretary of the
Dr. Harsh Shorty, I'm transplant surgeon at Naram Hospital and Artemis Hospital. I'm also advisor of the transplant to the Ministry of Health. And Dr. Kumar, sir, I am a transplant surgeon.
I'm Dr. Mark. I'm a liver transplant surgeon, but also founder member of the
I'm Dr. Anil Kumar. I'm the program officer for the National Organ Transplant Program and also the nodal officer for the Transplant Act at the ministry level.
I'm advocate of Kochi.
I'm Dr. Sumati and Deputy Director at the Hospital.
I'm Dr. Rajiv Jayadevan. I'm a medical gastroenterologist from Cochin. I'm the Vice President of the Cochin IMA branch and I'm also a social worker.
Good morning everyone, I'm Anurana and I represent some of you. Good morning everyone, Sangeeta Rupiva, representing.
Good morning everyone, I'm Dr. Soyalya. I'm an apologist and disaster from Medical Sciences, Hyderabad. I'm also looking after this liver transplantation program of Silicon Telangana, SGLR.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Jay Harris, tourist nephrologist from Trichatpalli, Tamil Nadu.
I'm Dr. Bhushan. I'm from Sir H.M. Branch Foundation Hospital. For many years I've been the medical director of Admission Hospital and now I'm looking after the education and other. I think I'm one of the second person doctor, I don't know if it's the MD or not.
Yes, fully.
Doctor becoming the lawyer. It's way happening. So I've been following it for quite some
Yes,
time.
yes, yes, definitely.
Yes.
I'm Sandeep Rash, I'm a neurosurgeon at Fortis Hospital.
I'm Suresh Rao. I'm the trustee at Moon Foundation.
Dr. Pratibha Kani. Even I have a law degree, not that I've used it much, but I'm an anesthesiologist at Jhanvi Hospital in Pune. And I'm here to represent anesthesiologists' side of all the problems. I think we face a backlash on every level.
But now I think it's a good thing, anesthesiologist as per this 2014. I mean, they can be part of the brain stem certification team. It's a wonderful thing that has been done because everywhere you don't get neurosurgeons, neurophysicians, and now we have not only transplant treatment centers. So probably that's the reason now even you will be able to be part of the thing, provided you are not on the going to be the one of the operating team members for the particular surgeon. So taking that view, anesthetists are really a very important part of the thing, since you are will be in the brainstem. Now coming to the thing which Dr. Anil Kumar sir just said about the brainstem death, this thing, I mean, I won't of course, brainstem death, of course, though it is there in the Act itself right from 1994, and that there are two forms of death. One is brainstem death and one is the cardiorespiratory death by arrest. But the recognition, the acceptance, of the relatives by brainstem death. What are the methods you feel that it should be done that more and more conviction of the relatives go, yes, there is an actual death, and we can go ahead for transplant. Maybe that, sir, is.
Yeah, we can actually invite first in the beginning itself, the comments from the neurosurgeon, neurosurgeon in the group, why there is so much of resistance to declare brain stem death from the community of the even to identify the patients. So we find that there is a resistance. So that resistance is hampering the cause of organ donation in the community of neurosurgeons, neurophysicians, anesthetists, so on. Intensivists.
Frankly, I really don't know about that because we have been always very proactive in declaring patient brain dead. I don't know, Dr. Shah, in '94, the first heart transplant which happened in India, I was actually the person who got that donated. So we have always been very proactive. Even the first heart transplant which happened in Fortis, I got it donated.
If I can throw in the light, actually the issue is that when patients see, that this is what the newspapers report at least, and this is the understanding I have from internet research, and also by speaking to some doctors, is that the heart is beating, but the patient is actually brainstem dead. Then what do the families say? Are they willing to accept it? Because they would say that the vital sign.
That is the problem.
Yeah, so that's what we need to discuss today.
Mr. Mukherjee,
Yes, sir.
just to bring some orderliness, we put one question and let everyone answer in 1 minute or 2 minutes. We can
Okay, sir.
have the and then discuss on that. So there will be some orderliness. So we'll have 4 or 5 questions framed. And each question, everybody can participate for a minute.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr.
Yes.
First thing is the uniform determination data, right? The lead in ending contact. I think that's the first thing we should address because that brings out brain death, respiratory death,
Yes.
definition as per the law,
Yes.
and it is within the confine of the act versus uniform implementation of that definition. I think that is the first thing we should stop with.
What's the question?
Uniform determination of death.
If you look at the
Uniform determination of the
Death.
death,
Yes.
need in the Indian context.
Yes.
So, as far as the act is concerned, it is defined diseased person as a person by the virtue of being brain dead or cardiopulmonary death.
The act actually, the WHO Act, says that if there is brain death, if that person should, can go for organ donation. So brain death is linked to organ donation. So many times when it comes to family refusing for organ donation, the problem of switching off ventilators comes into the mind of many doctors.
Yes.
Whereas when there is a, in an article act of death in India, what we have, death is defined as natural death. So if I did to Dr. Anil also some time back, that if brain death also can be included in the uniform declaration of death,
Yes.
then what will happen is, at least we get leading to organ donation, this brain death. So brain death can become a routine form of actually diagnosing death itself.
Yes.
That was one of the requests which we had made to Dr. Anil Kumar.
Yes.
That document they gave him. So that's one of the reasons why we brought this into this forum today. So if we are able to understand and change that an article act, it may not be very difficult to change. It's a small act. Then we can. Yes, Dr. Harsh.
Sir, I will try to verify right at the beginning. I am always accused of carrying this book with me.
Yeah, I also.
Following it wherever I go. So the fact is, let's talk what is defined as per the Act.
Please.
Brainstem death means the stage at which all functions of the brainstem have permanently and irreversibly ceased and is so certified under subsection 6 or section 3. It has nothing to do with transplantation. Sir, please, let me finish the definitions. Right? Donor and deceased person. Deceased person means a person in whom permanent disappearance of all evidence of life occurs by reason of brainstem death or in a cardiopulmonary sense at any time after life birth has taken place. Now, nowhere has the word organ transplant been mentioned. Question is whether you want to bring them two into one act and whether by itself brainstem death should be given currency de-linked from transplantation. Then the question, see, when you have at the moment the question which you have raised, I'm sorry to come in here. If a person dies with the person cardiorespiratory death, we require nobody's permission to start delinking and taking off all the plugs. Because the family knows, everybody knows, that the person has stopped. Now, when you come to brain death, the question is, while the law has got nothing to do with it, there's no reason why you cannot remove it. But the point is so emotive, we are not yet ready to accept switching off the plug. That is where the problem is arising.
We are on the same page.
And how
So
do
we are on the same page. Only thing is there is a separate definition of death in our constitution kind of act called an actual act of death. In which, so what we are trying to say is just use brain death as the cause of death in that area, so that we don't link it to necessarily the Transplant Act in brain death, because many clinicians have this problem of switching off ventilator in Delhi more than everywhere else. And if you are able to include this, then you link it to organ donation and death or brain death is the same.
Yes.
So that act anyway needs to be changed. Yes.
It is like the millions of superstitious beliefs we have in everyday life. Birth and death is defined in one more act called Registration of Birth and Death Act. Now in that act, death says, death means permanent disappearance of all evidence of life at any time after high birth has taken place. It does not say cardiorespiratory arrest. It says permanent disappearance of all evidence of life. And the brainstem is already defined as permanent disappearance of all evidence of life. So you don't need any more clarification anywhere. You read registration of birth and death, and you read the definition of brainstem death and deceased person. That suffices. All other arguments or discussions are superfluous.
Yeah, I think the definition of under registration of under Birth and Deaths Act and that of deceased person are similar. But then what happens? Brainstem death is separately.
And what he's saying, I'm saying, you are saying exactly the same. The law is all complete by itself.
Yes.
How to execute it?
Execute.
That's the question,
That's the
absolutely.
question.
And the Delhi state, Maharashtra, various places have made it mandatory that you declare brain death, try to make it more prevalent, let people understand that it became legal currency apart from transplantation, so that the procedure starts switching off. But the fact still remains that step of switching off, unless maybe you have a positive assertion in the law.
Absolutely.
Great, we have two comments coming from Delhi State.
So, I mean, all of you all are active people in Sept'16. I mean, Dr. Ravi, Dr. Sanjay. I mean, we have to promote the ESG deaths.
So, the first thing I would like to say is that although we are discussing law here, I don't think law is something always just the word. I think law is also common sense. Law is also the right thing to do. Law is also ethics. So, it's very clear to me that whatever the law says, and we have spent 15 years discussing this law and this clause. If in any hospital, if a family is approached and the family is requested for donation based on brain death, and the family says no, give us the body. If they don't give the body, we may as well close down transplantation in India. Because if the family goes and tells 50 people outside that these guys are only declaring death for organ donation.
Right.
I think this program, I mean, we have hundreds of other difficulties, but this is going to be a huge difficulty. This we already faced. Our transplant partners have already. Let me just start by saying that I'm not sure why we are waiting for deliverance from some force somewhere. If there is a medical community, we have science, we have a common sense. I think it's left for us to interpret and get on with it. Now I understand that Dr. Shroff says people are not keen to do it. But I don't know why they are not keen to do it. Why hospitals are resistant to it. We have tried in our own hospital. They all talk about some medical legal. I think that is often a refuge because they don't want to do it. I finally had one more thing. This is also leading to one more problem, which is that people suspect that you are ventilating corpses for making money.
That's right. Yeah, please,
I think the training factor, doctors being made aware of how it is done because of that. Me as an intensivist, I actively declare every day that my ICU has brain death. The first time, a couple of times, we had this issue about whether we not consent, do we go for brain death certification or not. However, when I have gone through that form, it clearly says, does the family consent for organ donation, yes or no? So the moment in the first 2-3 patients we treated, if they have said no, the brain death certification committee signing it, thereafter becomes no problem. Because that is a part of the form. Does the family consent? If it's a yes or a no, if it had to always be a yes, that option would not So because of that clause, I think if every training that we hold, we are able to highlight that, the intentionists or whoever people are involved in the regulation will perhaps not find it such a problem.
And being an intensivist in 2014 rules, you are supposed to be doing along, that is the amendment now there in 2014. The intensivist along with the transplant coordinator is supposed to be active in counseling and motivating, counseling the relatives for organ donation they specify in case of patient. So what are the, doctor, what are the problems you have faced by counseling them because you are supposed to be active in it?
I was just coming to that. The other thing is that, be it the neurosurgeon or the neurologist who may have to declare the brain health. I think the problem we encounter is when the doctor talks to the family like 99% he's dead, now 1% if some miracle happens. I have heard this counseling often even from neurosurgeons. So the first thing is that the doctor has to declare the brain dead with 100% clarity that this is brain dead and now this is how we have to move forward. You have two options. One is that we have to wait for X number of hours to repeat the test and thereby finally declare them. And the second is that at this moment we can start moving forward to take the, to be a donor. So the patient can be a donor.
Pardon,
It
what
has
was
to
the last
happen
Up there about 1%. What was that 1%?
Doctors do this. I have heard
They
that
What they say
They-
1%?
that he just might be alive and so some miracle happens.
They
So
create
that is the
To
thing
give
which
that
really makes the
25%
patient
or 1%
hesitate.
to a family, they want to cling to.
Which doctor tells them from which fraternity?
Even neurosurgery, ma'am. I have heard this often.
Sir, no, really,
So the clarity has
Of
to
this
be
1% thing which
I
might be saying.
have heard.
No, we have heard very often, nearly dead,
Huh.
nearly
Yes,
dead.
nearly right.
99% dead.
Oh.
I
That
have
is a lot of ambiguity.
So then there is an ambiguity, then
I've
there is
even
even
heard
more.
from the intensivist who has worked in for 30 years in a ICU setting only, saying that I have seen people like they were brain dead and they have come out. They have come out.
This is the doctor
That is the doctor is saying.
Yes, sir.
I want to take a different view now.
Huh.
Supposing you maintain a brain dead victim with all support, what happens?
I think maximum within 40 to 72 hours.
There are people who have delivered children. There's a woman who has delivered children.
That's possible.
She was delivered a child.
No, no.
And women maintained on ventilator, certified brain dead, menstruation.
That's
They
persistent
give you life over.
That's
Sir,
previous.
in
That's not
previous
brain
you
dead.
get that.
There are recorded instances.
No, that's not brain dead. That's previous.
Previous.
Persistent vegetative.
No.
Yes,
No.
yes.
I know the difference between previous and brain dead. I am talking about documented brain
We
dead.
have actually definition of death nowadays.
Yeah, because I think.
But these are very, very rare
Maximum
instances. These are not
40 to
normal
72 hours they
instances.
could-
These are very, very rare incidences.
Huh.
But these instances are also have to be taken into account. Generally, this does not happen. But theoretically, these things happen. There is one case in US where the patient was declared dead, but the patient was shifted to another state and maintained on the patient's family's request, and there was a delivery. But these are very, very rare. These are extremely rare.
If the circulation is maintained.
Right.
The child remains viable. So the whole issue there must be that you want to have a viable delivery. And that's why you are maintaining the oxygenation circulation by artificial means of the brain dead person.
That's
That
what
doesn't
we
mean
like
that
to
brain
discuss.
dead person
Right.
is right. It's not.
The issue here is,
Yeah.
issue here is,
Not the patient.
issue here is that was there a proper procedure or declaration of the Yes. Now after that situation, there are people who have been properly declared cardiac death, right? And they're on their way, and they hit the lamppost, the body falls off and wakes up. And after a few years again she died, this time the husband said, be careful of the lamppost. The point is that people who and been declared cardiac death and have woken up, that does not mean the process is wrong. It means that the person doing it may have made an error. But when it's a cardiac death, when you do cardiac death, you have a very young doctor, a single doctor declaring, and it's enough to get fired with the person. Here you got 4 senior doctors doing it twice over, so the element of error is minimized or whatever else has to happen. So that part is okay, sir.
No. What I
I'm
wanted to
just-
say
I'm
is,
supporting what you are
even
saying.
today's technology, even tomorrow's technology, or day after tomorrow's technology, it might become but that's not the point. The point in law is very clear and it's very prophetic. It's irreversibility that has to be proven. So even if you keep this person for 100 years, it's not going to be reversible.
No, you're right, sir. You're
So,
right.
We have the same thing here. My issue here is that, sir, when you have, there are intensities
Yes.
or even neurophysicians who come along and say that I will not declare till we have done EGs. Now the point is, when you have got people deliberating and making a common checklist, now do not start adding things which are not there, because you are creating an element of doubt. And if you do it in one institution and everybody else
That's
wants
really
it.
wrong.
So please follow the checklist as it is still, it is agreed upon to change. That is one.
If I can just say something here on the legal point, which is very relevant for the doctors, because you guys have followed.
Can we clear two things? Number one, Dr. Bhuja, and number two, sir, the neuro sciences that probably after brainstem death, it takes how many hours? They say some 48 or 72 hours it goes into. You know? Yeah, it is not lifetime. It is not
What is your
lifetime.
practical experience कि after brainstem death, how much time usually the cardiorespiratory death?
It depends. I've seen it ranging from few hours to more than 10 days.
10 days. Achha, so that is it. So definitely, yes, Dr.
Okay, first and the foremost, I have saw this uniform thing. These two things is creating the real problems.
Yes.
Number one, because one of the most embarrassing, because I think all of you know that our hospital has been doing since 70s, late 70s and all that like this. And what I say is that one person came to me when somebody asked him, do you want to donate organs of your person once we train him? He said that, just please tell me whether my relative is dead or not. If he is dead, please give me my body. If he is not dead, why you are taking the organs? This is a very one answer. I think normally I am known to answer most of the questions, but this is one answer. I was not able to do that at all. And that what right somebody pointed out. It gives an impression that actually person is not dead only because they want to take organs. People are talking this thing called as brain death, etc. and all that. So it is absolutely high time that everybody should accept that brain death is a death, whether the person is giving organ or not organ. Only one question remains which actually all of us should deliberate. First and the foremost, when are you going to ask for the consent of the patient's relative? That is because, is it after the first brain death committee report or is it after the 6 hours? Because that is one of the things what probably, and as far as my opinion is concerned, we should have after the second only, because even if they refuse, you can give the body to the person if you talk.
Actually, our law is very clear in all these aspects. You have to ask organ only after declaration of brainstem death.
Correct.
That is
Second,
number one.
Second.
Declaration means after completion of second.
Correct. So you should not, but
Death
because.
test.
It is not
So
asked.
you can
It is not asked.
start
No,
building.
I'll tell you how to start the process. We normally start after the first.
You can start processing.
I'm telling you that,
You
that is what creates a problem. So that is why one thing all of us should adopt is that please wait till the second thing is there. Though even though time is little lapse and the
You can start building the rapport with the family
that's okay,
3
that's
days
fine.
prior also. But
Correct.
if you are sure that this person is not going to survive, that is not prohibited under the law.
Right.
But to ask for the organs is only after declaration.
Second,
of brainstem death.
okay, so
It is
whether
very
accept-
much written. It is very much clarified in the amended act and the rules. So it is only after the declaration of brainstem death you have to ask for organs. That is very clear. The second is that only this organ donation is linked to the brainstem death. That is also not true. If you read this provision under the, I'll just read it out, that when any organ or tissue is to be removed from the body of a deceased person, and we have defined deceased person. So the law is very clear that when any organ or tissue is required to be removed from a deceased person, so it can be removed from a cardiac dead person also, it can be removed from a brainstem dead person also. So the registered medical practitioner shall satisfy himself before such removal by a personal examination of the body from which the organ or tissue is to be removed, that the life is extinct in such body, or where it is happens to be a case of brainstem death, and such death has been certified under subsection 6.
See, after even though this thing is there, cardiac thing is cardiorespiratory failure, it's there for how many years? More than this thing, because eye donation is happening for so many times, so many years.
Eye, ear,
So
skin,
many
heart valves
years.
and bone.
so
5 days,
So
5 days to 10 days.
allowed in both the situations.
Correct. But
That
only
is-
problem
that
is
not
the whole thing
going to be
confusion
done in the
taken
law.
place because people want to play safe and it is defined in Human Organ Transplant Act. So people are trying to link this definition into that. That is what has created a problem. I think it's high time that the government should actually declare that no, it is not like that. It can be done both ways. I think it is
there in
safe.
law.
That
It
will
can be
be
law.
the only thing is neurological criteria of
The
death.
definition of death itself is
I think
either by
It
cardiac
is just,
surgery.
I think if you for a minute just concentrate on.
Dr. Mathur, yes,
Yeah,
Dr.
see, what Dr. Bhujan is saying and what Shroff raised the issue and what Amol gave this definition from Death and Birth Registration Act,
Yes.
okay, and what concern raised by Dr. Nagar. See, there are practical things. What you are saying is right, okay, what Harsh is saying is right. Why it becomes wrong is the interpretation of the law, which is done first by the policeman in our country. Unfortunately, it is not done by the judge. It is not done by the magistrate. It is not done by a lawyer. It is done by the policeman. Policeman says that where it is written brain death, it is written in the Transplantation Act.
That's what I think.
My definition of death is in this act, which is prevalent in this country for centuries. Okay, I go by this. I don't go by yours. First. So, have you certified that like this? No. If you have certified that, according to this act, have there 2 persons involved in this? Everything done according to that, and this is linked to the Transplantation Act. So, there is I think what we are debating today is what should be taken to the Law Commission for bringing out a change in the existing laws so that everything becomes uniform.
I will also give one more example. I had one patient family who was issued a brain death certificate. And when they went to Breakaway, they won't accept it. But they said, this is not the death certificate which we need. You just get the death certificate which we have. So he came back to the hospital and we had to give him the usual death certificate in 4 lines, whatever it says. And then he went back. So we had that instances also because it is not commonly known what brain death is. What all we are saying is, just update the definition of death to include the neurological criteria of death. That's it.
In the
Don't forget about
general
observation.
definition.
Forget about observation. Update the Death Act, and that will create a lot of, that ambiguity a lot of people have.
Ambiguity.
Not that you're right. Our law is quite clear, and I am very comfortable in sitting on the area. No problem.
We are not getting the issue. Here you say you wish to give orders, yes or no. Once you say no, the bottleneck comes there.
You just
That's one issue. One is you can do it, but does anybody do it?
That's
Is there
the-
any
that's also
one
the
person?
aspect.
Is there anyone individually you may have the courage, but collectively as a profession,
So,
have you got
Harsh,
any clarity?
if you can do a neurological criteria of death in the Death Act,
Right.
then no problem.
What is between the
So we are only saying that add a neurological criteria of death in the Death Act.
Yes, yes.
That's all I will say.
Even cardiological criteria is not given, it just says transplantation.
The 2 issues are linked. One is when you say no, then you should automatically be able to switch it off. Now that can only come when we have got some kind of positive assertion, either from the society or from the law, saying that the medical profession is absolutely correct. You are cardiac death, you are pulling out everything, you have got brain death, you are pulling out everything.
That's what you mean. Okay.
So we need that is one, we do not require any mandate from anybody for that except either society or this. The second part of it is this misconception that there is huge death certificate signed by God knows how many people, how many times. You go to the crematorium, you go to the bank, you get a survivor, nobody knows what it is. Now, I put it to you that you are leading one of the most important NGOs in the country. Instead of talking only about organ donation, if you need a campaign about telling the people what this brain death certificate is about, is the same, you are dead, you are dead. You are not dead and then dead. If you can lead a campaign of this kind, the public will be far more, it will open up many more doors.
So that is why we are having this conference today.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so I think
And
that
social movement as well.
I think you should have one death certificate which says, is it brain death or cardiac? Absolutely. And then you should, if it is brain death, then you should have these. If it is cardiac death, then you should have.
Yes,
Whatever.
that's what
If you have one death certificate, not 2 death certificates.
Yeah.
I think all this, getting consent, which hour of brain death should we get consent, I think would be made facilitated if we have this opt-in, opt-out right from college and things like that, even in the society. There are programs which allow you, so the people are open to organ donation as a, a way of life. Today, organ donation only comes to them when their, dear one is actually fighting for life or things like that. But if we open it up in society,
I think she wants to speak something. Yeah. We are talking about the definition of death and incorporation. Don't go out of that area.
Beyond this, US SSG says when we take the consent, because I don't want to go into the declaration of individual data take the consent from the family members, they are able to know it, only then we go for that's one thing. And second thing, when we are talking about healing teams, so when data declaration is a legal document, so we have to take a signation of the 4 doctors. And routinely, cardiac is taken, but only see the doctor. So we have to define, when we are dealing in cargo donation, whether we have to follow the same procedure of taking the all the doctors. We have a bit of it.
No, I'll tell you, like this film which you must have seen, this Gabbar is back, that Akshay Kumar, which the allegation was on the medical profession. So the main, he raised this issue in that film, that because that particular hospital had declared the person as brain dead, and now this person has come to your hospital and you are giving treatment to a dead person. So that issue was raised there. So the problem is that if you are not declaring brain stem dead, when the organ donation is not happening, then tomorrow these kind of allegations will come.
Procedure to declare brain dead when the organ is not happening.
That is the same procedure remains the same. Procedure remains the same. Like why are you half in the refuse? Because that is rather more suspicious. That becomes more suspicious that you are not declaring brain stem dead when the family has refused. It means you are not confidence of your competency to declare the brain stem dead, because that time nobody is, the person is taken to the OT, organs are removed, the person is declared dead. That person cannot be reversed now. So because they have declared, so they are safe. Tomorrow suppose the person continues even after ventilator is removed. So it means the competency of the doctors who are certifying the brain stem is doubtful. I think Madam the point
I always counsel brain death on the first session. Because if the operation and the OT thing has to go through, we need time. So suppose I declare it at the second time, and then the family says, okay, we are giving the body. I am legally bound, actually correctly speaking, I am legally bound to this connect. But I need time, often families need time. They say, discuss and then consent. So if we are looking at that we can only counsel after the second, then the law must also take into account, and it should very clearly legally state that the body can continue to be maintained for say 24 hours or 48 hours, depending on what a larger group can deliberate. So that that comes in the legal framework. Because patients, the families need time to consent, and even for us to prepare for the better recipient will take time.
One thing I want to make a point as far as the death certificate is concerned. I think death certificate is, to the best of my knowledge, internationally this format is everywhere the same. So I don't think we can modify this. Language may change, but I think that international death certificate is universally accepted in this thing.
So the doctor should sign the same death certificate even for brainstem death.
That's it.
That will solve the problem.
So you don't have to write
Or
a
it will
patient
change.
or not. Patient is dead, patient, that's all. Because you can't have two different type of things because international.
I agree. It should be a simple thing. The law clarifies that even in brainstem death, you sign the same death certificate after taking approval for specialists.
So if there is brain death, then you have two
sets of
people giving two death certificates.
Actually, what should be expressed, the procedure should be that final death certificate is the only one that says that the person is declared dead at this time. The brain death papers should be part of his file. If somebody says, yes, why it was declared, how it was declared, that is in the file. That doesn't have to go to
That
the head of the institution,
Yes,
who is the RFP in charge,
Yes.
should be the one signing the, or counter-signing the death certificate. As we know it, cardiac or leak,
That's it.
he is dead in the sense. And the document, as you say, should be kept with the 4 doctors and
That will remain in patient
in
file.
the background, as well required.
Absolutely.
Yes, but
That should help gain public currency.
Right.
That is fair. I think that's a very important recommendation.
yeah, brain
Would
stem
that
death-
satisfy you, Sunil?
That's not what was me, sir. I'm very happy with whatever it is. We are only telling you the larger problem of the country.
I don't think it needs a amendment of the act or modification of the what I feel, and it is wrong, subject to correction. A clarificatory letter from the ministry saying brain death can be legally treated as clinical death, and the medical certificate can be issued based on the brain death certificate already issued, which should be valid in, all over the country. Some such clarificatory letters from the ministry. I can settle all these
And we should
problems.
also clarify
All
the
of
time
that-
of death from the case of the brain stem.
And we clarify the time of death.
So what is the time of death?
The
Time of
second-
death is the completion of the second apnea.
Second.
Complete the time at which the second apnea test is completed,
No, no.
that will be taken as the
Again,
time
there
of
can be
death.
varied interpretations to it.
Actually-
Actually, the person is dead when you test it for the first time. Second time, you are only confirming what has already happened 6 hours earlier.
And what about the time you take the ventilator off?
That is different. But if you really ask me, UK follows this one.
See,
The first certification is the time of death.
The-
Any other-
I won't agree with that.
We can have the
What
second.
they are saying that the second confirmatory test is the final thing which confirms that that has actually happened.
So it is only confirming what has already happened.
No, but
it's
it's
not
not
here.
really wrong. If
Anyway,
second confirmatory test is not
Avoid confusion.
Actually, when we are not actually aware, because we know that that is a process. We actually don't know when the person had died.
Died.
So what time we are confirming that time is taken as death. Even in case of cardiac death. When the time of combination of second apnea test. Any other opinion on this?
Yes.
Any other opinion on this time of completion of second
No, I think we
apnea?
can have it as second.
How many-
This needs to come out more clearly because a lot of people who come to train are often confused in what they have to do.
Even that can be.
Can I have one question?
Opinion on this? Well, if it is.
Dr. Anil Kumar, even that can be incorporated in the
We
letter.
can a recommendation to the.
Dr.
I think-
One question I would like to ask this intelligent forum, all of you are certified brainstem death. In how many percentage of cases you all have signed the first test and not gone ahead for the second for want of doubt?
0.
For one doubt.
Sure?
Want of doubt.
One doubt.
Sign the first set of brainstem death, first death, and not sign the second one for want of doubt.
But for donor instability, yes.
Don't
That's all.
listen to
That's all.
Other reasons, other
Yes,
reasons.
other reasons.
Yeah,
Yes,
other reasons
yes.
could be the family not accepting, donor became unstable, those things are different.
So there are some-
But for the want of doubt, it has never happened.
Doubt means
This is a very-
medical instability.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the only reason.
Yeah, so
Yes.
it's a very robust process.
Yes.
What sir is saying is right,
Huh.
that the UK actually mandates the first time apnea as a time of death. But in our law, the law is very clear that we need 2 tests. So
Yes.
let us basically stick on. We are right now putting the time as the second
Second.
apnea test.
Let us continue.
Continue that, because if we change it now, it will add
Again,
more
there will be a lot of confusion.
So can I summarize
Yes.
that as per the law commission and what we are going to take it to the
Yes,
legal.
sir. Yes.
On the first person is that there should be either a letter issued by the Ministry of Health and then after confirming with the law ministry that death is defined as cardiopulmonary death, oblique, brainstem death, as certified under by the law. Okay. That is one thing which should come.
Yes, sir.
Right? So that it becomes a general thing. So that the police people, I am worried about the police, I am not worried about the judiciary because judiciary comes in later. Police is the one who just handcuffs you and takes you there and then whole career is gone for the dog. Okay, I am worried about that. So this type of letter, it should be issued by the Ministry of Health after confirming the law ministry and should go to all the legal authorities. Whether it's magistrate, whether it's judge, whether it's notary or whether it's the police station.
Rather, better would be, it can be issued by law ministry itself.
Yeah, law ministry.
We can say twice in a week.
The order, the government order, whatever it is, should contain 4 points. One is that brain death or cardiac death is dead. Two is that basis the brain death certification process, a regular death certificate should be issued.
Yes.
Third,
Yes.
after
Uniform, not regular.
uniform. After brain death or cardiac any death certification, ventilator and all this can be disconnected. That is the third point. Fourth point is
One thing.
May
May
one
be
thing.
disconnected.
may be disconnected.
Wait, one minute. Third point should be the consent should be obtained only after the second one.
Consent, we are not talking about.
We are not talking
No,
about
what
consent.
about
Brain death
because that's a
certificate.
confusion that takes place. Consent may be asked for the obtain only after the second
Fourth
one.
point.
I think Ravi is saying, what Ravi is saying is right.
Yes, I
Third point
yes, yes.
should be
All
that
life
ventilator
support
waiting can be whatever.
Disconnected.
Should be, maybe can be or should be, because
Or
if you are
should be
going to say
definitive
certificate,
language, okay.
then it
Should
has
be.
to be,
Must be.
should be.
Must. There is no
Because-
obligation to treat the dead patient. Must be.
Ah,
Can't be
should
maybe.
be.
So it should be.
Exactly, it should
No,
be.
no, no, no,
It
no.
should
No,
not
no,
be maybe, if it is
no.
maybe again, then what happens, your body
Please.
again has a confusion.
Please take the
It cannot be
issue
should
with
be
that.
because
One
if
minute.
at all they decide to
One minute.
donate organs, you have to continue.
Yeah.
Exactly. Isn't it? It cannot be.
Sorry,
Okay, maybe
It can be.
Yes.
What's the point?
And
The fourth point.
unless the third point should be that ventilator can be
That's all.
disconnected.
Because the
If they do not want to
Organ
donate,
donation is
it's not consented to. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Fourth point is time
taking
of
that.
declaration, time of death is second happening. These 4 points you should put in the government.
yes.
Now, there are two things.
So you are-
There are two things. While Dr. Amrul
There
is
is some
saying-
benefits,
Yeah.
there are some benefits in maintaining also, in the sense, the family may be first indecisive, they may not decide, they may need
Yes.
some time.
Okay.
So it's better to maintain for some more time if they request, so.
Can be.
So give us for that.
Yes.
Can be the better.
If you say can be disconnected,
Because the definition is already there.
Don't say it should be disconnected,
can be.
Executed.
But-
Basically,
Sir, madam, just say
the-
can be, that's all.
Yes,
Can be
yes.
covers everything.
I agree.
Yes.
Actually, what Dr. Amrul is saying is very right. मतलब कि
Doctor,
right
again,
now awareness
why
is
do
not
you
there.
deliberate? You say can be, please pause.
हाँ,
So,
it can be
why you want
it can be
to
both,
say?
but problem is that when we allow the family to wait for this, we are occupying that ICU bed. It will be
That's not a competition context of organ donation.
Not demanding, they can't demand of all these men, they want organ.
And
Never
that is
get an
one
answer.
thing. If you are
Never get an
anticipating
answer.
organ donation to happen, then you can. But if the organ donation has been refused, still the family wants to continue
No,
the
it was a
regulatory
bad
support,
thing.
then can the family be allowed to dictate this?
Why not?
Because you are occupying a very scarce human resource. Not the
refusal is for organ
the
donation.
infrastructure bed, which is very rare in the government setup, particularly the ICU
All
beds.
life supporting measures. Basically, that should be
And
the
you can salvage more patients if you make those beds available to other who are serious patients. So, because ICU beds, particularly in government setup, they are very limited in number.
Yes.
And they are being occupied by these brainstem dead people on political pressures, on many other things, and they can be like, I should not be saying that, but that is the reality that they are, sometimes somebody's relative is there, they pressurize that you keep on giving the ventilator, and so that kind of a issue is there. So we are
Go by
just,
the general rule, doctor.
Sir, I just need one clarification. Sir, just one clarification. Going by the common law doctrine, a person is dead only when the circulatory respiratory system is not working.
No.
You have a brainstem death definition under the Transplantation of Human Organs Act. Arunava, correct me if I am wrong.
Yes, you.
Would that be applicable to general deaths also?
See, deceased clearly says, the definition is already there, deceased means by brainstem death or cardiopulmonary. So actually that is already covering both, but it is socially not being
Subhadeep, let me speak as a lawyer.
Yes,
I think Arunava must have obviously spoken about that. This happens to be a special act. A definition in a special act cannot be transported to general acts. So that It would be limited to the general act only. Arunava, am I wrong?
Yeah, no, absolutely right. The discussion here, what we have understood from the doctors on the ground is that there's a death certificate. Now the question is, when a person is cardiovascular death, you're in the process of signing, there's a custom. Now when a person is brainstem death, before doctors certified, now that certificate is not recognized by the policemen, by the mortuaries, by nobody. So therefore, because it's an international form, the same form should be issued for even a brain dead person. That is one conclusion. There is no hindrance in the law. What the doctors are saying that the law already permits this.
No.
So there should be a clarification from the law ministry that when a person is brainstem death according to this act, the same death certificate can be issued. Now the question is whether this should suffice or whether a
Sir, this will not suffice. Sir.
Exactly.
This as a lawyer, maybe with my little knowledge of law, this will not suffice for the simple reason we don't have a uniform definition of death in India. This was the problem that was faced by United States not far off, 12 years back. And the Central Law Commission there had to bring out a uniform determination of death act. Having only 3 clauses.
You're absolutely right.
So, I don't know, without that, how can you sign someone's death certificate?
Right, that's why the question is.
So that's what we are saying.
Right now, but which all law, like apart from this registration of birth and death act and this act, which other law defines the death?
Indian Penal Code.
Only Indian Penal Code has a definition. I don't know why you had got
Right,
that.
sir.
Why don't you read that definition?
No, registration of birth and death defines death.
No, he's
Sir,
saying Indian Penal Code
I read
also.
that.
Please.
I read that just now.
Yeah.
Indian Penal Code
So-
is the definition.
No, sir, I agree. Okay, fine. I think to make the matter very clear and this is going to be
Sir.
a question raised. I agree with you that we should then put up in such a format that there should be a legal definition of death.
Absolutely.
In one format.
That's
Sir,
what-
please
that's what
read
we
it.
started with. That's what we started with. Let me summarize this because we will take some.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. See, Dr. Shroff started with this, and some of us supported, some of us didn't support because some of us said this act is thing. But now you have come out with the legal angle, which is what we are lacking. Now, when you say that this is only for in the purview of the act, not beyond that, that's what we are saying. That it means the law commission should recommend
Absolutely.
that death should be redefined as
Absolutely.
brainstem death.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that should be the now don't see when we are doing the recommendation. Remember that you cannot link 2 issues together because they are confused. Because when you are reading something, you read one and you try to link the second one to the one first. That should not happen. That's why I have objection to your way of putting it. So my thing will be what this house should pass is that the definition of death in the Indian Penal Code.
No, not in the Indian Penal Code. A general definition. It can come in general clauses and it can come somewhere
Has to come from the law,
That's what you're saying.
legal this thing, which should include cardiovascular death, oblique,
Brainstem.
Okay, so that's first.
No, not neocortex.
Biological criteria for death is what actually speaking about is even in the if you say uniform equation of death.
Yeah.
USA is the the cardiovascular
Yeah.
cardiopulmonary death cutoff in this one and the biological criteria for death.
We can just read what is there in the IPC. The word death denotes death of human being unless the contrary appears from the context.
So where does it take it, Dr. Rani?
But it doesn't define actually what is death.
Yeah.
But
Sir, you have it. Yeah, please read it. Please read it. Please read it for the house.
it is the same which is there in our act.
Yeah, please.
It has been defined in 1969.
Sir, please come here.
No, I can read it from here.
Yeah.
It is defined in 1969 Registration of Birth and Death Act. It's a general act. So it says death means permanent disappearance of all evidence of life at any time after live birth has taken place. It does not say cardiac death. It does not say circulatory death. It does not say neurological death.
Yes.
It just says permanent evidence disappears.
Yes.
And this Transplant Act says permanent evidence of life disappears even in brainstem death.
Brainstem death
That is
or
enough for you.
That is enough.
Okay. So now, sir, now, please.
It has to go in the general.
Sir, there is a problem from me as a lawyer appearing for doctors and hospitals. Tomorrow a hospital comes to me asking for a legal opinion, saying that, sir, a brainstem death person, we certified in BSD, can I give a death certificate?
Yes.
It does.
1 minute. I will not give a written opinion. Why? Number one, according to me, the definition of death, as you read or from other sources, from general law, would not include brainstem death. One. If they are open to one minute. There are only two ways in which a legal problem can come to a solution. One is either the legislature or the regulatory body makes a law, a written law. Okay. Number two, the court is seized of that matter. The court interprets this section and comes to a conclusion saying yes, under the registration of Birth and Death Act or under the Indian Penal Code, death would mean BST. If either of them are not coming, I as a lawyer will not give a written opinion saying that no, this should be considered as death.
We agree with you.
Sure, please.
See, according to me, it can be given. The reason is that, as far as little knowledge of law, let me tell you that if something is, first of all, unless and is contrary is there, if it is there, it is defined in any other law, it can still be taken. For example,
Yes,
right?
except-
Okay, that is one of the things what
This is what is my
understand.
understanding
Since you
of
say
the
that
legal is
rape,
defined
IPC,
going
as well as death and this thing there,
Yes.
they have not clearly told it's only permanent this thing.
Yes.
And even our organ transplant act says that it's not taken a brain death,
Yes.
it can even be taken from the sedation of this thing for a very simple reason that corneal transplantation is taking place for last 50 years after death. Okay. So the question, I think whatever you raised, according to me,
Yes.
it can be definitely given, and I don't think, because the reason why I'm telling is that if it goes to be law to be modified, first of all, it is going to be this thing redefined where, which act, because it cannot be taken one district at all. At the most, opinion can be used.
I have one more point to make.
Correct.
It is just for opinion of the house only. It says permanent disappearance of life. And in the case of a brain stem death, we know the heart is moving. So the life, when we say permanent disappearance of life, means no movement should be there. But that is the basic definition of a living thing and a non-living thing which is taught in schools. The living things, they are moving, the non-living things they
No,
don't
I
move.
don't agree with you, because as long as it can be moved by external pressures, okay, no, let me answer to Dr. Kumar. The point is that even the non-living things move if at all external pressure is applied, okay.
No, that is
So
external
actually you are trying to make a whole thing artificial.
No, even in brain stem death, even without external pressure, the heart can move.
That's right,
Even
Issue is that there is some issues are there.
Sir, I think we are
I am
making it
saying,
too
though it
technical.
is going beyond, because it is there in the law that it means permanent disappearance of life, but definition of life means it is not moving.
No.
No,
I don't think so.
No, sir,
Because even after death, there is no
Dr. Anil Kumar, we have done, Arunava ji has done a lot of research and reported cases nowhere say what is disappearance of life.
Yeah, it can
Sir, as a lawyer, if you ask me,
It is taught as a living
Yeah,
and
yeah.
non-living. In all textbooks, it is written.
Dr. Anil Kumar, sir.
Where there is no.
I think what we are, see, let me summarize and we will not be able to move to the next point.
Pardon, sorry. Just this was also, because the definition is given like that.
I think we are just being too technical, sir. In that case, even after heart stops, you can put the patient on ECMO and maintain it infinitely.
Why so we are doing ICD now? We are removing organs from dead person and making them alive in another person.
Yeah.
Dr.
I think we should not forget.
Point.
I think I work with the community. I work with the grassroots. I'm a gastroenterologist. I'll tell you what we can say all we want, but what is happening on the ground may not be what is reflected out here. I will raise the point raised by Dr. Swarnalika as well as Dr. Resham. These are people that actually they are on the ground doing this. Couple of issues. I can confirm from Kerala that there is a resistance, with due respect to my neuro colleagues, there is ground level resistance for neurologists to come and actually physically perform the act of certifying brain death. Number one. Number two, they are frustrated with the fact that it's only in India that they have to do it twice, not just once. It's like I lock the door of my house when I go to sleep. Should I really come down again after half an hour and check if the door is locked? Why is it that we consider ourselves, our clinical assessment inferior? Why can't we stop with just one assessment? That's the question. That's the question. Yeah. Do the neurologists agree that one assessment is good enough?
No, there's something on
That's
metabolic
the question.
confusion. metabolic confusion, the drug effect going off. The time period as a scientific basis. It's not some irreversibility.
But drug effects going off, we always talk of 5 half-life before you start testing.
Even thinking about it.
Yes,
Yes.
so that certification, drug effect going off.
Sure.
The first testing should not happen if there is any.
Absolutely. You should not be thinking about it. If
6 hours is not for drugs.
You have to
at all.
suspect
It's
that
not
you
for
don't
drugs,
know.
it is to prove irreversibility.
Correct. The word is in the act also, the word is irreversible cessation of circulation.
So, this is the
I think we are again, digressing. We won't have time.
Yeah,
I agree whether you want to have a uniform declaration of death in our act or not, as a separate act, as general act, as our lawyer Bajpayee said, or you want to continue as it is.
No,
I think everybody agrees it should be a general act. It should be a general act out of
A
context.
clarification letter from the law ministry will settle all these academic debates.
So, we just need clarification, we don't need a new law.
Yeah, you just
Even
clarification letter.
certified, mentioned clearly. So we just need clarification, because a new law will take time. We just need clarification that heart stopping is death and brain stopping is death.
No, out of context of transplant. We don't want to go in transplant in it. Because it will cause paranoia. People will get suspicious.
So it either has to be
A general act.
a general act
Is better.
or in the registration of death act clause should be added, or under the Indian, see, if this definition or amendment comes in the Transplantation of Human Organ Act, it may not suffice.
In registration of birth
It should either be, the best is what sir says, in the registration of death and birth act, if a proper amendment is brought.
Sir, but the registration of birth and death is very, very prescient. It does not say cardiac death at all. How are you certifying cardiac death? But
So
the
we can have an
registration of birth doesn't say
amendment. So we can give a
What
death
we are
certificate
suggesting,
in
we
our
are certifying cardiac death, even though the registration of death doesn't say so.
Sir, we can make an amendment. Why? For the simple reason.
I don't think an amendment at all is needed. This is
Sir,
my
and if we
clarification.
take it, Professor Will, yes, we can give a.
You don't understand.
Now,
Then you ask the law ministry.
I think your previous
Actually,
we were taking a neurological, because all of us know we are not talking only the cardiac. We are also taking the actually pupil reaction, dilated, not reacting, in the neurological.
Instead of breaking our heads, put all these things and give it to law ministry.
Yes.
Either they issue a clarificatory order, or they amend the act,
Or they will
they
create a
do.
Sir,
They will do it
Sir,
correctly.
may I say, whatever we are discussing here is not without purpose.
Yeah,
Whatever, but 1 minute, let me clarify it, sir, please. 1 minute. The law-making body in India is, or rather the body responsible for law reforms is the Law Commission of India. The chairman of the Law Commission is here in this hotel. He will be joining us in the plenary session. All that we are going to do, he wants it. They will apply their minds. But we as doctors have to give our perspective.
So basically,
Yeah. And so we are not arriving at a conclusion.
I will once again summarize on this point of definition of death beyond the act. Okay, what we expect from the law commission. That's what the
Absolutely.
recommendation is.
Yeah, no.
That will be that the death should be defined as cardiorespiratory arrest or brainstem death.
Yes.
That definition
Yes.
should come
Yes.
with how it reaches, how it comes, it should be applicable all over the country.
So would it be right to say, let us not have a exclusive definition?
No.
It should be, this is also included. Cardiorespiratory is included, BSD is also included. Tomorrow there may be a third thing also, we keep it open.
Yeah, and the reason for that.
So
is that-
this will ensure that those who really want to promote transplant, they will have a reason of declaring a person dead immediately. He is BSD, according to the law, I have provisions, I declare him dead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
I
I think that's agreeable.
Yeah,
And we
because-
close that issue.
yeah,
See
I
what
think we
happens,
should
and we will
close-
not be able to move to the another point.
Yeah, because then we can release the body and the same, that is the thing. So then-
Those things will come
Yes,
later on, because
later
that is a, once you declare somebody
Yes,
dead,
yes,
that
yes.
body can be handed over.
Exactly.
I really want to hear what Dr. Anil Kumar wants to
No,
say.
actually, we have already agreed on 4 points to
Yes.
be settled by the
Settled,
law
yes.
ministry. Number 1 is the that the definition of the death
And
will
the
be
uniform
clarified further.
certification of death.
That brainstem death
Yes.
or a circulatory death, and how it is to be clarified by amendment of act or through a clarification letter that can be left to the law commission. Second is the
Life
uniform death
certificate.
certificate.
Yes, yes.
Where that may be continued and that may just be that may, because that brainstem that document can be a part of the
medical
file
record.
of medical
Yes,
records.
yes.
And they may not, it may not be issued to the patient, but that and the time of declaration of the brainstem death, major time of declaration of the
apnea.
death will be the
Second apnea.
completion of the second apnea test. So that is
Yes,
because
yes.
we have to do twice this
yes,
testing.
yeah.
And the another was the ventilator. This further, the fourth point can be that ventilator can be discontinued.
If they don't want to donate.
You say life support.
Sir, but whether, sir, that will be possible, sir, that's a very
No, it's not
important
That
issue.
is what it is. That is
But
what it
that can be
is.
clarified because somebody is already dead, whether by reason of brainstem death or by reason of the circulatory death. So it is pointless to continue treatment to a dead body, which is an irreversible condition. And rather, what I quoted that Gabbar is back on, in which they have pointed out this issue that the person was declared brainstem dead in a hospital and taken to the another hospital where the treatment was continued. So he said कि ये तो already उसने brainstem dead declare कर दिया था. They were mentioned the word brain dead over there. So आप एक dead body को treatment दे रहे हो. So that was question. This
bad publicity for the program.
So
And they have to be taken to theatre immediately if they are given the consent. And we can't waste time.
another supporting point for this is that we are misusing a resource, scarce resource of the ICU bed, because which can be used to salvage somebody rather than continuing a dead person on that
Yes,
ventilator
yes,
support.
yes.
So
Economic sense.
Sir, but then again here the question would be,
Two more.
sir,
Just two more things.
sir, one very important, because Dr. Anil Kumar is the man who will pilot all these things from. Sir, no, sir. Sir, even in that terminally ill patient's bill, if you see, okay, the definition has been kept very narrow. Only a terminally ill patient can give consent to withdraw life support.
So that's a
Number two, and even something like living wills, etc., we have done away with. Sir, I am talking about a broader this thing. So whether in the transplantation, one minute, let me please. Sir, whether such an amendment could come in the Transplantation of Human Organs Act, saying that you can take out the ventilator?
It has taken so many
It is
years
there
for
for
amendment
medical
in the
ethics. So why do we need a
transplantation.
separate
Sir, I
one?
will raise two just
Sir,
other
sir.
One is an ancillary test like a CT angiogram can be included in cases where
Apnea is not
difficult.
That's exactly what I was.
CT angiogram
Has to come in
more
the definition.
One minute, sir. CT angiogram is more
Yeah,
objective.
criteria.
You can show it to the relatives also. You can put it in the case sheet also. It will be valid in the law also. That is one. Number two. So kindly consider whether it can be included.
We can be included
In
in the
addition to
criteria
or
of
in replacement of CPR test.
15,000 rupees.
Subsection three,
Number two.
subsection
We
three.
have to say, madam, that when here it is there, it will be done.
Number two.
Sir, let us complete.
1 minute.
Yes, sir, please.
Number two is
Yeah.
this issue of pediatric brain cells. So many pediatricians say that 6 hours may not be enough, 24 hours is enough at all.
Yeah.
There is no clarification on that.
Yes,
There are
yes.
pediatric associations can give some clarification, we can include that also.
But law has included that provision that the duration of 6 hours has to be extended based on the opinion of the pediatric, because there are different opinions coming from different sectors.
Medical Urology Association guidelines say 12 hours and 24 hours for the infant.
So
Yes,
we
They
have
are included in the new rules.
rules.
I saw that.
So we have already imported that provision of pediatrics, but regarding this, where it is not possible to do the apnea test. So our opinion was that we may rather leave out these cases from certification of brainstem death. Let them die a natural death, and if somebody wants to continue them on ventilator, because already we are not worried about sparing the ICU bed, so let them be.
So I have a strong opinion to that, because
There are very rare cases, not
very rare. No, sir, they are not very rare. They are everyday occurrences.
Everyday
And medically and ethically, as a medical ethics, those people can be certified brain dead. All across the world, it is agreed that you either do a CT angiogram, MR angiogram, or a conventional 4-vessel angiogram. And if you are going to agree on that, you will need to add 2 points. One is that it should be included as a part of ancillary test. It should be one of certified brain death. You will have to change the time of death. Right now we are putting time of death as second apnea. In case the second apnea is not done, the time of death with the CT scan or angiogram. You will have to add that point as well.
There is one more question asked by the liver team whether they have to do CT and twice or
No, once.
Carotid
I think the specialty of CT angiogram would be available in big corporate hospitals only which have plenty of ICU beds. So that.
But there is a transplant center not in
There is one medical issue if you strictly take brain stem death, if you strictly speak only about brain stem death,
Yes.
there can be perfusion into the brain.
Yes.
Only in brain death, there will be carotid cutoff. If you are taking brain stem death, as described in Indian law,
Yeah.
cerebellum can still be perfused. Cerebellum can still be actively perfused.
Yes, agreed, sir. But for the sake of CT scan, complete loss of blood supply in the kidney. Carotid
Then that is brain death, not brain stem death.
The brain death, carotid cut off the kidney.
But only one thing, sir, as that in NQRC it may not be possible because they may not.
That's okay. Madam, it can be done in the smallest of hospitals because
But this can be.
CT scan,
There
there
are
are hospitals that are outside.
He
So
gave
they
the
take patients outside to do a CT.
And get it.
What about the EEG?
No. EEG.
No EEG.
No, if I can just add something here, if I can add something here, what I discussed earlier and what Bajpai was saying also, the Indian context is different from any other jurisdictions. We need to look at our context.
Absolutely.
Now in the United States, they have brain death. In India and UK, we have brain stem death, which is why this procedure of EEG, which is there in US, is not required in India. Therefore, the question which arises today is this angiogram or CT scan which we are talking about. Would that certify BSD or would that certify brain death?
BD only.
So if you are taking brain death, then wouldn't that be taking it to the next level? Because you have a simpler thing here, BSD.
That's right.
No, in the case where apnea test is not possible,
Not possible.
only in those cases, a substitution test or ancillary test like CT angio is maybe of the brain test where the whole cutoff is there, that may be added in your rules. You don't have to add it in your.
So this is an alternate method.
We choose that method. Only when the doctor is not possible.
So that should come actually in the rules. It should not go to
Form number 11 of 10, form number 10, now.
Yeah, that can come over there, but my main worry is if we are able to make these brain dead people like wean off the ventilators, where we are able to certify through apnea test, because that we are not able to do at present. So.
But Dr. Anil, you have to have the other clause. We cannot do an apnea when the patient is suffering from a lung problem. Because you disconnect.
Or if you have if you have a C2 fracture, the patient cannot
Or
breathe.
airway,
So how can you do an apnea test?
I'm agreeing, but wherever they are able to do the apnea test, they are not doing.
Sir, what is not wrong?
it's going to take that many
Right.
years.
If you show a photograph of no flow in the brain, the family gets convinced better.
Absolutely.
Actually better.
You are perfectly right.
So then
Yes, the
we
family
make it mandatory rather.
No, we are not asking that.
No, I think we should, as far as the ancillary test is concerned, it should be kept in the rules, which should be debated only by the health ministry, and it doesn't have to go to the law commission.
Yes.
It should not put in the law.
Actually,
We
it will have to come in the
can
act.
easily
It can be by
activate
another
here.
amendment.
No, only rules.
Rules
Only
is
rules.
easy for
No
us.
act.
Only
Act only talks about brain death. It doesn't talk about apnea test.
Apnea test cannot be done completely.
Act doesn't talk about apnea test, Dr. Anil Kumar.
Act does talk about that.
Dr. Anil Kumar, let me follow up on Arnav's point. India's context is different. See, Indian public sees on television, on movies, the sign of the ECG as a sign of life. Try convincing the Indian public that a dead body can have a bleeding. Let me complete this.
We have done about 570 donations last year.
Yes. Let me
And
just
those
complete
companies
this.
have said yes to donation.
Yeah, let me just complete this.
Into issues because we only have limited time.
No, it's not just the public, it's the doctors. You try convincing a doctor that a dead body can have a beating heart. We should convince them
That's
first.
in the educate or
We should educate them.
That's another issue.
That should be given priority along with this.
That is
Not
another
just the
issue.
Then we are going to come to that.
Let's talk about real issues.
Awareness and other things. So as far as Uniform Definition Death Act is concerned, what we have said, what should go to the Law Commission and what is going to you for
ancillary test, for
ancillary
ancillary test,
to be used only when apnea test cannot be done as a second line. Because otherwise, with due respect to the neurosurgeon here who is proactive, there are enough
Yes.
neurologists or
And we also
intensivists
remember
or general physicians
we now have
who will make it mandatory to do first this and then only will certify. Okay, so it should that as an ancillary test, not mandatory. Now we go to the so that's what is concluded right now.
Yeah, next point.
Next point is the how can certified clarified brain test be made mandatory?
So just one issue, you mentioned about disconnection.
Now, see, ventilator disconnection, as Dr. Amru has also mentioned, that there are two issues with that. One, when you have certified brain test, there is always the issue when you will take the body for harvesting the organs, which sometimes can delay for 12 hours, sometimes rarely can get delayed by 24 hours, depending on some of the issues, like medical issues. And you have to get a police clearance and all that. It gets delayed. So if you say that moment the time of brain death is this, and you will disconnect all that, that you will not be able to harvest. So don't bring that in this. Second, what Dr. Amru is saying is family wants to absorb that shock. And sometimes then say, okay, now the time you can withdraw. So you have to give that leverage. The moment you say that, yes, after certification of brain death, it's not obligatory that you will withdraw the something. You can withdraw. You may withdraw the something. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we already discussed that. Moving forward.
Don't make it mandatory. Mandatory means that it becomes difficult even for harvesting.
Counseling for organ donation will become difficult. But main problem is this period of counseling. Suppose it extends 2 days after declaration of instant death. Then who is going to pay for these 2 days? Whether the patient who has been dead, their family needs to pay for that 2 days, or
I think as far as your act is concerned itself, it is well defined that the expenses on the donor maintenance will be borne either by the government, NGOs, or by the recipient, or by the hospital. So that is given it. That is given in the act.
Is that part of the act?
It is part of that.
Yes,
It is
recipient
part of
has
that.
to pay for the
It
donor.
is part of that.
It is part of the act and the rules that recipient has to pay.
if the donation is not happening, the recipient doesn't come into picture,
Then the hospital has to pay for it.
then hospital has to pay the cost. But the hospital, are they willing? Are they willing? Are they willing?
No, we are doing it that way. In fact, I really didn't know it's possible.
Each hospital has its own
Every hospital will have its own guidelines.
Every
Can I say
hospital has
something?
their own protocols. We can't make it generalized for hospitals.
So we are opening a Pandora's box,
Yes.
which of apology. Hospitals are not willing. Those often charges are put on the donor. That is the reality. You call a few transplant coordinators here, they will tell you that. Okay. So if you are serious about it, you have to force hospitals. No hospitals will be willing on their own. I can tell you that.
That is the transplant center which we
Second apnea test, no charges to the donor from there.
because even if
What about the investigations done for the donor for the purpose of donation? Which are ultrasound is done, is charged for the liver. In Mumbai it is charged, I'm telling you. That is for done not because the patient needs
Need
it.
to understand that, once you have done the second declaration of brain death, after that, no charges to the donor. It's
But the ultrasound is done before the second declaration.
Maybe a few investigations may be done. I'm not
Pointing out that costs are still put on the.
By and large, the ventilatory charges and ICU charges which are huge, which are the main costs, when it comes to some ICU charge 50,000 rupees for maintenance. So at least that can come to a standstill at that point.
After the second set of tests.
Once the family is present in ready to for organ donation,
No,
will stop.
no, that's the
Can I
normal.
make a point here? As far as billing is concerned, sir, that goes outside the purview of today's meeting. Let it be done later on, and then we go on to the next point. Okay? Because that doesn't come in amendment or suggestions. So that is a different thing. So we have to make it mandatory. I think by inclusion in the act and just going to this thing, so we have to have the common form, we said, and put the brainstem death forms within the medical record.
Actually,
So-
indirectly, but I believe that it is already that indirect provision is there because now it is mandatory, request is mandatory. After the amendment, that to make request for organ donation is mandatory, number one. And request can be made only after declaration of brainstem death. That is also there. So indirectly, we have made the brainstem death declaration mandatory.
So that's not the same thing. So there are, on an average, at least 10 people in this city who are clinically brain dead and not being certified every day.
Yes.
So that
okay.
doesn't answer.
My thing is this, that request is mandatory now. Whenever a patient is
After the brain declaration happened.
Yeah, we should make it mandatory for all hospitals.
Many people will only do it if there is an inclination for it. Half of the people, more than half of the patients are not even looked at.
Looked at. I agree.
that is fine, but whenever a patient is in intensive care unit, if you see the act, whenever a patient is admitted in an intensive care unit, even they say that you have to make request for organ donation.
Intensivist can transplant organ.
That was even normally suppose somebody comes with a diarrhea, is also admitted in ICU in most of these hospitals. And how can we make requests for organ donation in such cases? But the act says so. Whenever a patient is admitted in an intensive care unit, you have to make request for organ donation. Act is that.
See, the basic thing is, no,
But
I will just support what Dr. Anukumar is
so
saying.
request for organ donation has been made mandatory whenever person is there in intensive care unit. But we have tried to just neutralize that wrong done in the amendment in the rules. We have said whenever there is a potential donor in the intensive care unit, like where the death is likely to happen, then request we mandatory and that will be made only after declaration of brainstem death.
So we should declare brainstem death.
So indirectly, since we say request is mandatory, second is it can be done only after brainstem death. So that is indirectly makes the brainstem death.
But that is
Irrespective of
Can I make one suggestion? The suggestion has been made for some other purposes. We all are speaking. Video is being recorded. The problem would be video will not record things properly. So can we instead, on this issue, this is a new issue, we can start from that corner, each one of us gives an opinion and then we have open house. Is that alright with everyone?
Okay.
Yeah, sir, please, let us start that. Yeah.
I am very uncomfortable about marriage. What does marriage mean? If the doctor does certify, are you going to punish him? What are you going to go? These are fundamental. In law, if you say something has to be done, something is not done, it must be punished. So are you going to punish the neurosurgeon if he is not going to certify death? Are you going to punish the transplant coordinator if he is not going to request the family? And how are you going to ensure? Tomorrow a class from account office will go to a private hospital and say that you are not requested, mandated, requested, so we are punishing the hospital. How are you going to protect against these issues? So these are very tricky issues and we should not mandate things which we cannot enforce. Neurosurgical or brainstem death is a scientific and medical matter. It can only take place on repeated requests, repeated publicity campaigns, repeated donor action programs inside the hospital. It cannot be mandated by law because you cannot enforce it. And if they violate, you have no way to punish them. It would be very wrong.
So I just want to bring in one more point. Some of you will not be aware of this, most of you are. The way organ allocation is done in India is that the hospital which has the donor takes priority. This was done 10 years back because it was thought that the only way to incentivize hospitals. But there is another side to it, which is that if there is a hospital which is not going to organ transplants, they don't take interest in donation. So by giving priority to your patients, two two problems are arising. One is that you are not going by severity of disease. And as Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, we are all party. We are not going by severity of disease. We are giving priority to the so this is the incentive for donation. But therefore, what is the incentive for the other hospitals who are not doing nothing? So I just want to point out this confounding factor. So why is we talk about making it mandatory and pushing it? In my view, it doesn't work. In Maharashtra, we have discussed it. True data, forcing hospitals to give data, they don't even give data. There is data from 10 hospitals says zero brain stem. So it won't work. But also think of allocation as an incentive from the other side. And unfortunately, I need to put this, unfortunately, transplantation in India 90% is the private sector, which is a huge confounding factor. Please don't quote UK and Canada because transplantation is in a universal healthcare system. There is no question of money for the hospital itself. This is a huge confounding factor. I am not suggesting that we discuss that, but it's a huge confounding factor. And if you don't recognize it, then you will end up with other problems.
I've already made a couple of points. I'd like to bring up 2 points here. One is the continuation of what Dr. Sanjay said. That we have experienced allocation happening because we had transported an organ to another hospital. Though we are a transplant center, yet we had transported an organ. And subsequently, a couple of months later, we got an allocation of an organ and it was just delivered to us. So I think the allocation is beginning to happen. We need to just take it forward. The second point I would like to make is that, with respect to Dr. Agol, who's much my senior, I do believe that the brain stem certification has to be mandatory. After all, we do not give a cardiovascular death line on the bed and not certified. He's got to be certified dead. From what I read a few years back in 2020, they did a New York State Palliative Care Act, which made it mandatory for doctors to even declare the palliative state mandatory. So unless we say it's mandatory, people always going to have the choice, do I want to do it, do I not want to do it. Whereas when he's dead, declare it and do your job, that's it.
In relation to the first point, I would like to say that I quite agree to the 4 points which have been summarized, and that's quite enough. That's what I think.
Second
That
Ma'am,
is
just a clarification. One, we are right now speaking on the second issue. How can certifying brainstem death be made mandatory? There are 3 more points to be discussed. Again, we'll do the same thing so that consensus emerges. So very clearly, please speak on how can certifying death be made mandatory?
Or should it be made mandatory?
Should it be or not?
Should it be?
It should be.
Sure.
It should be.
And any reasons to support that argument?
It should be made mandatory because the clarity will be there.
Sure. Sir, please.
I also agree, it should be made mandatory. I think Tamil Nadu has
So the reason why people don't declare clinical trained people to form a certification is because they fear that the family might not accept it. And if it is supported by law, it is much easier for people to talk to.
I think most of it is covered. What we need to do is we implement the first point, the second point obviously will be easy. Because right now people are not diagnosing brain death because they are worried about what will they do afterwards with the ventilator the family. So if the first point gets implemented, the second point will be easy. I agree with Dr. Angolo, it should not be made mandatory. It will become a PCPND Act for intensivists and neurologists and neurosurgeons in future, and it will be a pain, real pain to actually get rid of it. Thirdly, we are talking in context of donation, and we are putting in processes so that donation can be actually facilitated. Okay, so we should not put in processes where it can be incentivized or something. So we need to have, mandatory words should come out of that. It should not be there. If it looks like it is forced upon, and anything to force upon people, they are not going to accept it.
So,
I think the law itself, the Amendment Act, and the rules quite clear. There is no need to enter new word because then it again requires amendment on that. Because it defines the duties of the registered medical practitioner. This says that it is the duty is to identify if there is a brain death in your ICU, which is also duty of the intensivist who is working there, and approach the family to find out if that person, when he was well, he has given any consent for organ donation and which has not been withdrawn, Also, if the family is willing to continue to respect his will, whatever he has said, if that is not, in that case the family will propose for organ donation and they will say yes and no. And at that time the transplant coordinator will come into picture who will then coordinate the rest of the activity. So it is part of the duty. Now issue is, what is the duty? The problem in our country is that we say duty is only written there, not my duty to follow it. Okay, that is the problem. That's why we bring the word mandate. There is no need for mandate. If my duty is not to throw the garbage in the street, okay, why the word mandate should come? So when it's written that is a duty, Dr. N. Kumar is working in the government sector, right? He is given, when he joins the, I worked in that, Dr. Nagaraj has worked there, Dr. Amlo has worked there, working there. We are given the set of the duty and we are saying that we are responsible for the dean or the medical superintendent. Any work assigned work will have to be carried out. And when you don't do it, there is an ACR, there is a memo given. Why is it? They know what mandatory. It is written that your duties are like this. If you don't perform your duties, you will be taken to the task. So once you define the duty, it is there in the act. You don't have to enact anything new. It is there, you have to just follow. It is there.
Yeah, it is there. I also believe it is there. But my main worry is that we don't have enough expertise available to certify the brain stem cells. That capacity building is required when we say 4 doctors, out of which only one, I think one is only competent to certify the brain stem. The others are just signing. That he is saying, so we are also signing. This neurosurgeon, neurophysician is saying. So that is the practically the situation. So parallel capacity building of all the people who are signing the brain stem cell certificate, because they are not worried, because right now what is happening, only organ donation is happening, they are signing, and the person gets goes to the OT, then nobody can question their competency, because that thing is gone. The person is operated upon. Nobody can question whether they certified it correctly or not certified it correctly. So the main issue is that capacity building of the people who are certifying is they should be able to certify when the organ donation is not happening. So they should have enough confidence. If organ donation happens or not happens, they are confident of their findings and whatever they are signing, they are confident. Because more doctors are.
I just started here, although I am not a doctor. What I realized from the entire discussion today so far, and I think husbands would completely agree with this, the essential question is law looking at the duty, whether it is the word mandatory or not, it is the duty. The entire discussion shows is a question of trust, and it's a question of capacity. Some hospitals don't have capacity, some patients and families may not have trust. So how would it appeal to doctors if I suggest that brain stem cell certification be done by a government agency? Can't we have a central nodal agency which comes and certifies, and if not, what are the problems in that?
See, I also fully agree that, see, if it is made mandatory, I was just thinking of the same thing, that the small nursing homes and, small institutions, they may not have the expertise, they may not have neurosurgeon and panel. We are also talking, as it is of an anesthesiologist in the president committee when there is no neurosurgeon in NTRC specifically. So therefore, some of the smaller hospitals may not have the facilities and they may not want to just expose them to a CTNJ, MRNJ just for, as Dr. Rahul said, like if you don't do again, the government is after you. So I think, I fully agree that if part 1 is made okay and brain stem death also is acceptable and the society at large, it is basically awareness, the general public, that just like there is a cardiovascular arrest, there is a brain stem death, and also there is a form of death. Once the public awareness campaign should be made by the government also, sir. Amitabh Bachchan or somebody coming on the TV, Amir Khan saying this is a different form of death. Like they said about polio and everything got eradicated. Same day somebody coming, they for organ donation or something like that. Awareness, it is being accepted and it is being encouraged. Part the first point, if it comes to the first, automatically doctors themselves will start. So infrastructure being lacking, small nursing homes also should not bear the brunt. So when point one is established, point two should automatically follow, and people should generally make themselves aware and engage.
I think the larger purpose of this discussion so far is not to have dead bodies on ventilators anymore. I can summarize it like that. I believe it is the duty and also the standard of care of anyone who works in the ICU, Dr. Reshma and others work in the ICU, smaller or larger hospitals, that no patient, no dead body should be on a ventilator. So it becomes, the word mandatory can be a bit harsh. I would say standard of care that death must be certified. And I agree with Dr. Anil Kumar, it must be least cumbersome so that we don't use too many resources. And thirdly, from a public standpoint, I say it brings closure. Closure and a sense of calm. Because we are afraid of what we don't know. But that includes doctors. If you can educate doctors and the public that a dead body can have a beating heart, that will be a powerful campaign. Thank you.
What my opinion is, it was mandatory. I feel Maharashtra is a mandatory example because of the numbers we have been through, and it's still not been implemented. A lot of stress is there in the system, which is adding to the problem. So somewhere it's all about what we discussed now, but we need kind of some solution or some kind of motivation for the doctors. And of course, there has to be the request of the case will partly engaged with the ICC. So I think that would be the So we are talking in a situation where we are not able to identify most of the losing most of the patients. I mean, like 75% that's why we are talking about analytics to increase, the engine of the larger analytics. So I think the mandate is not a appropriate word. Basically, it should not, put the doctors at risk. It should provide the doctors, some comfortable or they should be comfortable declaring the brain. So I think the term should be different, not the mandatory, in a lighter way or softer way, where people are comfortable and at least they can notify that brain death such as the patient is there in such a hospital, even if it is a non-transplant center. So after that, the organization, the transplant organization, or the government and actually can take up that particular.
I fully agree with Sir that the word mandatory should not be used simply because we have PCPNDT Act, which is so draconian and so very misused. But I have a suggestion, and the suggestion is, why don't we have a provision in law saying that an ICU patient every 72 hours, the doctor is duty bound to certify or ensure whether he is brainstem death or not. See, the reason for saying so is, today the problem with doctors is how do you face the patient's relatives. So if there is some sort of a time period, every 72 hours I have to do this, he may go to the relative saying that, look, according to the law book, every 72 hours I have to do some certificate. This may perhaps help the cause.
Can I respond to it because it is very...
Sir, let us finish this language. Let us finish.
Yeah. No, let us finish language.
So I'm not from Tamil. I would not say the word mandatory, but maybe it is a necessity that everyone should follow. But how we are going to pursue in the long race of problem, because all my colleagues are little apprehensive. They always feel that it's a favor to be for those patients. The long race of problem, but I would not say it's a mandatory, it's necessary to conform to the national one common language can use it. That's what I would recommend.
I don't think that word mandatory right at all. First of all, why are we presuming that all the ICU patients are going to a ventilator? That also is not necessarily. Some of them may not be there at all. Only one thing I would like to give you parallel thing is that recently, of course, on behalf of our right-hand politicians and trustee for many years, Bombay High Court also has given a verdict that in death certificate, at least at the end of it, have you attempted donation of eyes or not? Just say yes or no. That will give a little distinct to you at the back of it that means that whenever same similar thing can be added, whether you did or not. Some something like that. So that just because I know very well, being for the last 31 years there, I know one thing very clear. Most of the things are not even nobody cares about anything at all. So just remind them, just please look for it. And also just ask this question, don't make it mandatory, probably that will help. And of course, as we say, awareness and all those things are very important.
Of course, mandatory would be very difficult to implement, but what we need to do is to empower more people to declare brain death. Because till now there were only nurses and neurologists, and you may not even have these happen at corners. You may not even have the person available at the time to declare. So, like a few months ago, I got a call from another hospital that they didn't have anybody to declare patient brain death, and it was 1 a.m. on Saturday night, and then I had to travel 25 kilometers to declare the patient brain death because the patient's family was very influential. So we could even say no. So if more people are empowered, then it will happen. Secondly, even in our hospital, when I joined this 4 years ago, opened 4 years ago, people were not really aware about declaring. Nobody was even looking into it. But once we started our transplant program, and gradually now everybody is really towards it. They are actually looking for it, even if the early sign of brain death, they start talking to the family, they do all the tests. So, it will be different in each hospital. Kind of they are running. All the hospitals who are not doing an active transplant program, it will be very difficult to motivate them to declare.
Thank you. I think a lot of the discussion is on standard of care. There are hospitals where ICUs are involved, and you have an end of life discussion with the family. Where data is also part of it. When you have ICUs, they are not clear. And that's why I think there is also such different opinions here. So we need to think of something which is uniform. And the required request, which is part of what Dr. Rajkumar said, was only done to give some moral responsibility to the ICU consultant that in the event of brain death, at least empower the relatives that augmentation is also possible. Nothing more than that. That was the purpose of required request. Now coming to the duration of brain death, I think some kind of standardization is required, where ICU needs to be told that in your end of life care also include brain death as form of death, and have a discussion with the family that your relative is now brain dead, and this is also a form of death which is accepted by government of India. So I think this is more of an end of life issue, and I think we should take it and club it with that rather than making it mandatory and doing this and that. But if the declaration of brain death is there, then there is a request whether you want to go ahead. So I think it is more to do how involved your ICU care is in any part of the city, in any of the ICU. And I think we should look it from that point of view and frame something with that in mind.
Actually, when the hospital makes it a process, like Sir said, that not 72 hours, we probably do it, but make it into a form of a process in ICU registrars and ICU consultants, that this is also part, every day asked to assess and see whether, any suggestions for organ donation can be made. But as a form of a process in the training and in your hospital policy, I think that will also help, because every hospital can, influence their intensities to certain things.
Can I talk to the intensivists for
Just from there, again, please.
Sir, instead of making it mandatory, can you just say, encourage or request it? It's a duty. No, it's not a duty. Don't make it.
It is already written in the act.
That's
It is written there.
That's why that's why you are discussing now.
It is written the rules and the duty.
No, that's why you are discussing now, because it's not taking place.
It's not taking. Absolutely.
That's why you have
I want to address the
Sure.
I want to address the issue.
So I think they
raised
can
now.
make it as, they can be encouraged to do or they can be requested to do, but you don't make it mandatory to do.
And that's what I'm also agree with you that
Mandatory started from Tamil Nadu only because they made it mandatory in the government hospital.
No. In Tamil Nadu, it was in a different context. We had to encourage the 3 government hospitals to start, but we have never enforced it. We have never enforced it.
But
we know that
mandatory was written over there.
Yeah, exactly.
The government
I was starting at that time we were also growing. We did not realize all the implications.
It's like that what Dr. Ankumar is saying. We are aware of dogs, whether you have dogs or not, people will be little scared to enter your premises.
No, they wanted some legal backing for it.
No, I would like to address this issue which has come out of the first discussion, this discussion which is just now. The first thing is, I would like to correct in Maharashtra, there is no mandatory word for declaration of brain death or mortality of brain death. Only thing is that there has been circular issued on behalf of the Rural Transplant Coordination Committee, on behalf of the NCFOT and on behalf of the State Aggregator Authority for that you should identify brain death and certify brain death. There is no mandatory word. Okay. There is going on for the time that act came. Okay. And it is not in the situation. Number two, I am making a provocative statement that doctors are the ones who need to be educated about this brain. And what Kumar is saying, that who should certify? He says neurosurgeon, neurophysician, statistician, just this one of that. Brain death, yes, we should look at it. Except that the rest are all clinical examination of neurological examination, which is taught by MBBS student before he passes his medicine examination. Right? You are shocked to your knowledge. If you get a neuro case in MBBS, you are supposed to have to do all the tests, including the cranial. And brain death certification is nothing but the examination of the cranial. No. Okay. So it is part of the MBBS, you don't need any very special thing for that. Except for the attempt, which can be taught as a part of the curriculum. So the doctor saying that I don't know what is brain death, I can't certify brain death, that means he is basically trying to shut it. Okay. Right? RC is a million fish to take out. Because he doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know what is neurological examination. And if a specialist talks in that term, then definitely he should be. Okay. I'm not saying that it should be done. So basically, the first thing is the doctor community, medical profession has to be educated and taught on the board that you cannot say I don't know what it is. If you say, then it is punishment. You cannot say that I don't know what it is.
But how will you punish him?
Now the punishment is, yes. What is medical negligence? What is medical negligence? Willfully I commit something.
No.
Medical negligence is willfully I commit something. Right? That means my knowledge is lacking. My knowledge is lacking. If you say, I don't know what to bring there, that means your knowledge is lacking, that means you don't deserve to be a previous registered doctor.
Can I just talk about for what we do as a industrialist? Every day in the morning, when I see the patient, I note down pupils, fixed, dilated, not reacting to light, cough is not present, cornea is not present, blah blah. I don't go into a caloric test and apnea test. These are the two things. But if I have written these four brain tests negative, it is then my bound duty to conduct an apnea test on that patient and do a full brain stem examination. So that is what we do. If somebody can write those 4 points in their notes very well, the next 2 points are just an extension of those 4 points. It's not a big deal. Sir,
which we must perform as part of our duty, but once
Become
we
healthcare.
identify that patient, it should be mandatory to certify.
See, medical negligence is different from difference of opinion like supposing very highly qualified neuroclinicians, people are sluggish. The whole, you cannot say, according to me, people are
I'm not saying
no, he's not.
I'm not saying that.
Just
But
say,
I don't know what to bring that.
no, he must. All of them know very well about brain, but perhaps much more than all of us do. But the point is, you can't force a neurosurgeon or a neurologist or intensivist by the rule of a strict rule like that. You can't say that otherwise I punish you yourself. You can't do that. It is not possible, it will not work. This element of coercion must be taken because I'm just thoroughly talking about.
Sir, can we come to a conclusion that mandatory is not required? The present structure is enough. Do we all agree with that? Or should there be supplement? I think the House is of the opinion that awareness etc. is required. Law has no role to play there. Okay, so I think the present provisions are enough. Does the House agree with that?
No, the present provision is mandatory.
No, it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. There is a duty cast, sir. There are many duties cast, sir. The duty is cast to always speak truth.
No, actually the word mandatory is not there in the act. That is very true. It is the duty.
Yes.
But if the legal opinion is that duty is not mandatory, then we agree with it.
No, sir. Anil Kumar, see, this matter has not reached the court till date. So, as a lawyer, we cannot say whether it is mandatory or voluntary. Although, just the Supreme Court jayega, that time we will come to know how it is interpreted by courts. So, anyway, does the House agree on this?
Yes.
That no need for a mandatory provision in law? Everyone agrees?
Already we believe that this is mandatory, it is indirectly mandatory. We believe that.
Basically, it is being mandatory only based on
Making it mandatory on the transplant coordinator is also unfair.
We are
Because encourage him to counsel the families as much as possible.
Because that word mandatory is not written over there. But my interpretation is that indirectly it is mandatory. But I am not a legal expert, so if the legal opinion is yet not clear on this, that whether it is mandatory or not, and someday the court decides that indirectly, what is the interpretation of the provision? So then we may just continue with it, whatever is there. And we try to build up but we can give one recommendation as a part of this group, that awareness generation regarding the brainstem death and capacity building of the doctors is required. So
always felt doctors are of organ donation.
Let us now take this journey. Increasing organ donation through
donation of circulatory
from there.
Now we are writing comments on increasing organ donation by making it possible upon circulatory death.
approaching families for organ donation, strengthening the legal framework.
No, the issue is that when a patient is dead but his heart is beating, the family may not be able to accept death because the heart is beating. That is a layman's approach to death. So the issue
DCD, we are talking about DCD.
No, what is the issue? So the issue here is donation after circulatory death. If a patient's heart is beating, then what happens? If I'm misunderstanding the term, then the question is
circulatory death.
As specifically help me out.
Here it is whether a provision could be added in the Transplantation of Human Organs Act to include even DCD along with BSD, a clear definition.
See, basically,
I think it's included, but anyway, let us.
it's already included and we're bringing for issues like your skin, your ears, eyes, heart walls. Law
does not prohibit that.
Law does not prohibit that.
Does not prohibit that.
Our interpretation is very clear.
That's all.
You may need to have an additional rule or a guideline or whatever you can from the donor website if somebody wants to do a DCD, so that there is uniformity again. There are some hospitals that are already doing it, some hospitals are scared to do it. So to encourage it, maybe you can have a guideline if you can't have a rule at least on the donor website.
Can we pass the mic to Dr. Shroff because he had initiated this DCD. Excuse me.
I thought you were going in order, so I was. You said it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a lawyer will take place.
No.
No, so I think just we need to take 3-4 minutes to understand what it is. ECD is a logistic challenge. That's the law. Not the law, after IFS, you can take all the taking organ. It's a logistic challenge. There are various forms of ECD. So I agree that we don't need a new law for it. But what it will mean is a huge new logistic challenge for hospitals to take the organs. If any hospital is interested in just to add over the structure, the hospital is already done these things. So, I'm just pointing out that it can be done by the current law. It is being done on the way. But it's a logistic challenge, not as easy as it is.
It's not a legal challenge. Not a legal challenge.
I think the doctors are there. ECD actually implies logistically that once the patient has had a cardiac death, we need to go in and do the transplant within, we need to intervene within the next 15 minutes or something like that. So everything has to be got ready. Perhaps what we need is that, one word can be added so that ECG becomes a term familiar to a lot of people that
In the transplantation.
No, that's what we will do. We don't need to change anything. The already said it.
So although DCT, according to the current law, DCT is allowed, but the way it is done is not legal right now. So let me clarify this. So the way a DCT donation is done anywhere in the world is you agree and the family agrees from a living person to disconnect the ventilator in the OP. And once so you are willfully taking off the ventilator from a living person because there is duty of care which has been assessed. And then once the heart stops, then you start the retrieval of the organs, right? So that currently is not allowed in the by any law in India. That you can take off the ventilator out of the ventilator from a living person. That person is not dead by any of the law. That person is neither brain dead and not circulatory dead. You are willfully inducing death in that person. That is, so this provision has to be allowed. So there has to be a concept of that there is duty of care in this person, and therefore with the consent of the family you are going to allow death in this person. So that is not there in the law currently. Sorry, DCT cannot be done by law currently. After somebody dies a natural death because of any other reason, then you do it is different. But tell me which law allows you to disconnect ventilator from a person who is not dead by any law.
That sounds like the purview for our discussion.
So, no, I will tell you, I have done maybe 30 cities in Australia. Okay, being a part of it. What Ravi said exactly was what we do. The country, as in Australia or UK, have got clear laws of utility of care, where if medical consensus is there and family's assent is there, we will fully disconnect the ventilator and all life supports because the patient has got no meaningful recovery. So that is a practice which is being established there. And to have a meaningful DCD program, there are a lot of things like you cannot have a blood pressure less than 15 millimeters of mercury for more than 30 minutes. Otherwise, most organs will become unviable. Less than 50 millimeters is considered as good as a circulatory death for that organ, not for the sake of legality. So hence, when we used to do that, we used to basically extubate the patient, stop the ventilation after obviously going through the diligence of having medical consent and everything. And if the patient did not succumb within 60 minutes of withdrawal of medical care, DCD was abandoned. At that time, there was a retrieval team which used to wait in the theatre. 5 minutes of downtime was given to the family to have a quiet time with the deceased person after the heart stopped. And then the patient would be quickly wheeled to the theatre and the organs would be retrieved. Ravi has pointed out a very right thing. We do not have a provision to withdraw care currently in patients where care is futile. So we cannot do DCT. What can be done is somebody has expressed the will that I want to donate organs and that person dies and some of the organs can be utilized. For example, that person dies with a blood pressure which was around 100 and became 0 within the most span of time. He can certainly be taken and kidney can be taken away. Because kidney seems to be the most viable organ amongst all of these. Otherwise, heart, lung, liver, more than 30 minutes of less than 60 to 50 millimeters systolic blood pressure and non-viable organs. So,
I will just educate all of you about what is the DCT. Basically, there are 5 types. There are 5 types of DCT situations. There are some situations which are applicable to us, and there are some situations what both of them mentioned is not applicable to us because larger than 28. The type 1 is when the patient is brought at casualty or the same, so they are no donors. Except, yes, or they are still can be taken out, but they are no donors. The second is a cardiorespiratory arrest suddenly happening in a patient, okay, which can happen during surgery, cardiac surgery, anything. And in that situation, you can resuscitate the person, and the family agrees to donate the organ. That is one DCD where the organs can be harvested because you are maintaining the cardiorespiratory. The more common variety which will be permitted by our law is a person is brain dead, certified. Okay, that means, but the family says, I want heart to stop. then only you can harvest off. Alright? This happens abroad. That's why they give this speech. In that case, you allow the heart to stop and harvest organs. Now, the issue comes that how many organs you can harvest. Technically, you can harvest everything except the heart. Alright? But in that case, you take the person who brings them into the theater, keep everything ready. Okay? Or keep in the ICU everything ready, allow the heart to stop. Alright? Or the family says, yes, induce cardiac arrest, that's fine. But we want the heart. So you allow the heart to stop and then quickly open the abdomen and do the perfusion, and you can save the kidney, liver, pancreas, and the lungs. That can be transplanted as per the conditions in this. That's a controlled disease. The second is that you have satisfied brain death. This is a situation we face here also. And the donor becomes unstable. Hemodynamically suddenly becomes unstable. And often the issue is, no, we let it go. You don't have the donor. In that situation also, you can resuscitate the donor and do the organ harvest. So these two are possible in this country because it is linked to the brain death. The third is the cardiopulmonary death, which we have certified cardiopulmonary death, but you can harvest the organs. That consent comes from the what is the definition of a deceased person, that cardiorespiratory versus disease. So you are certifying cardiorespiratory death and quickly active to retrieve the organs. Okay, so that expertise has to be with the doctors. That requires a definite protocol. Okay, but if you want to induce that cardiac arrest, what Ravi and Pandit was saying, for that you need her. That's all. Otherwise, you don't need it.
So, agree with sir. Max stage 4 is the best one in India currently.
Pending brain death. After that, we have to stay away.
Actually, what sir said, to hasten the death, cardiac death, that is not at all allowed, and I don't think that can be allowed also by any near future at least. Nobody can, even for passive euthanasia, we are struggling. And withdrawal of support and do not resuscitate, all these are still not acceptable. Or legally they are not acceptable. So they may be, after this euthanasia will come, then perhaps you may be that do not resuscitate at least for withdrawal of the ventilator, etc. That can be maybe there to hasten the cardiac death by withdrawing the support. Not actively, definitely actively, nothing will be allowed at least for 50 years, I don't think. Even if there is a futility of care in such cases. To do actively induce the death, even in a cancer patient, terminal inpatient, it is not going to come so easily. So, and logistic challenge is definitely there, and it is this DCD definitely, but these new machines which perhaps have come, that where you fit in an ECMO and you, after the cardiac death has taken place, and you run the heart with a ECMO machine, and meanwhile the family is already willing, or in those situations perhaps where the family is motivated already, and you put in an ECMO machine and you buy time to retrieve the organs. So that perhaps maybe those machines, people are saying that machines they can be used to increase the time in which you can harvest the organs. So that way, if they are brought in, so perhaps that can help.
Currently in Mumbai city there are only 3 ECMO, 3 or 4 ECMO machines.
So we would like to have next comment from there are 2 issues to this. One is logistical issue because in India, abdomen is not prepared yet to have a DTC. The second is legal aspect. Legal aspect only defines about the tissue donation after cardiac death, not the organs. As we said, they are controlled cardiac death. But it is allowed, but
Deceased person.
yes, basically
other things like consent, can we use the same consent form? And particularly if it happens to a medical legal case, what has to be done at the
Consent form is also same.
same consent form? I think these are things to be just before we
Declaration consent form, where it says I have been made aware that my person is transplanted or cardiac.
Or cardiac.
And after being made aware, I have given consent.
Yes, but when to take the consent, because we have no time available after cardiac, they go for a counseling, take consent, and these are the things to be addressed before we pick up the.
I have no comments. I am very glad this person.
Yes, I agree with Dr. Mathur said what he said. Yes, we don't have much of a scope today now on the current basis of the existing laws. And unfortunately, there is one misconception that if at all patients relate to say do not do society, even just between writing, it can be done and all those things. According to me, legally it's not permitted out as of now. Unless and until the law changes, and as rightly said, when the euthanasia this thing comes, probably it will happen. And even the Supreme Court judgment in Aruna Shanbhag's case about the passive euthanasia, that also, of course, I don't think anybody else said it because it's a long process and all that. Probably by that time, the organs itself may not be very useful at all. So I think that we should wait for we should continue the same practice and we should force the change of the law as and when it comes.
Yes, sir. The only thing which we need is we have fully agreed that the national criteria, hold the criteria, go for initially. That's a straightforward criteria. The only thing we may need to put into that, raw rule or act or in the guideline, you know, when your heart wants to stop, how long do you wait? 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes? I was looking at the criteria for various European countries. In UK, they wait for 5 minutes before they proceed. In Italy, they wait for 20 minutes because the heart wants to stop before they proceed. So there is actually a variance in the time period which you have not, you can't do anything at that time. You should wait, but sometimes some activity come back. In India, we don't have any guidelines as such, even as such, how long the cardiac stand should be there before you actually do it. So to be absolutely sure, that is why I said that you require some kind of guidelines or perhaps a rule that you wait for 5 minutes. UK follows 5 minutes and we follow the stem death of UK. So maybe that can be included. That
standard is, I think, 10 minutes.
Oh, see, that is not written anywhere. That is not written anywhere. That is what has clinically we decide. But to be sure, when you are talking about organ donation, which is such a tricky subject, you need to be, say that okay, you wait for 5 minutes or 10 minutes also. That the cardiac standstill is there, you don't touch time. After that, only you can do it. That needs to be defined, even if you do Maastricht criteria 4, and that's the only reason I am saying that some guidelines are required. I also studied this thoroughly, and I have actually gone to all the laws of the different countries where where they actually have euthanasia, where the active withdrawal of support is there. That is different. You can't do that in our country. Definitely not. So, Maastricht criteria 4 is the way to go forward. Controlled situation of care. And please, this is what we need to include as a guide, nothing else.
UK, Australia both say 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Says 20 minutes.
Italy says 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
What is the opinion of the neurosurgeon and the anesthetist in this regard? How long the cardiac
Transplantation should be done.
See, in 3 minutes, most of the organ, if you are looking towards an organ in 3 to 5 minutes, the heart and the lung probably will not be able to see harvesting. So I think it has to be a reasonable period of time that we again, kind of even equal or whatever we want to start. There should be maximum retrieval possible. So whatever the time that we are going to give should be fine. I think is a good enough time. So that we have.
If UK is following that, then
I think I have read many places it is at 10 to 12 minutes.
If we are looking at an improvement, then we should make it as
Declaring a person dead.
There is a break that already declared by one.
This is again donation after circulating death. So once circulating death has to be diagnosed, 2, it has to be confirmed, 3, it has to be serviced. Only after that, whatever tissue or organs you can take. These things do not require any I understand. That's all. In a third world country like India, I would take a longer period to be very cautious. Because I wouldn't like the rackets to come. Newspapers will keep hiding that the person, even before his death, his organs are harvested, etc. We are at a very nascent stage. Even at the cost of losing some organs in the interim period, I would take an average which is a longer duration in any country.
Make it 10 minutes then.
Huh?
So 5 minutes.
You make it any time, but I would like it to be more than 5 minutes. Because 5 minutes is the barest minimum for cerebral circulation. So let's
7
take
minutes,
the
maybe
minimum.
8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes.
Make it 10 minutes. Make it 10 minutes.
So
that there is no litigation,
So that is
no scandal arising out of that, etc. We are in a very nascent stage. We cannot afford anymore.
So you can make
5
it
minutes is the cerebral
Actually, we have to
time.
call expert to meeting, separate expert.
No, Dr. Anil Kumar, because it's not
We are very forward.
I think we have to go as for
I don't know. Which country is that?
Any of intensive.
So you are.
Yeah, that's what
No,
I'm saying.
but we have to be sure about it. But
That is
Dr.
why
Lord
reason I
is
am telling that don't have organ transplant in your mind when you are Please divorce both. They cannot go together.
So Dr. Anil Kumar, I think 5 minutes is fine. I don't know that.
this group can
Again, I tell you, certification is not
agreed by all.
Or should you think we should all guidelines and then form an expert group to study the
I
guidelines?
fully agree with Dr. Amlor that we should not keep organ transplant in mind when we are deciding this kind of a issue. I give you one example. A team was going from Maharashtra to this place in Madhya Pradesh in Indore, where they got a call that somebody is willing to donate, and they wanted to retrieve the organs from that person. From that hospital did not have a facility to certify the brain stem death also. So I got a call from Maharashtra that they want to take the brain stem death team also along with the people who are going to harvest the organs. So there was a kidney team, there was a liver team, there was a cardiac team, and there was a brain stem death team. And all were going on a private jet to, like, with a mission in mind that they will come back with the organs, so many organs. So if you are going with a mission in mind, so what are you going to end up? So already you are going with a mission in your mind, and we are going to have a successful. So they are bound to. I disallowed it. I said that this declaration of brain stem death is at the most happening within the state. That certifying committee is valid only within that state, not beyond that state boundary, because it is the appropriate authority who has to approve the panel. And if the appropriate authority of the Madhya Pradesh says that this committee can declare their brain stem death, then they have to take that risk.
So I think Dr. Anil, the House is agreeing that we should have a time frame, and 10 minutes is what, sir.
So, sir.
That again you will anyway call experts and you will come down.
Sir, experts. I'm just
Sir,
saying
we are
I have been doing the expert. We have Dr. Yatin Mehta, who is the president-elect of ISCC, Indian Society of Critical Care, and the chairman of Indian Society of Mumbai. Dr. Reshma is there.
So your
we have many NSC.
Finish it off.
Let's
Rahul Pandey, please finish it off. Don't drag it. Please finish it.
Just
Finish it off. Finish it off.
So what is your opinion?
So my opinion is 5 to 10 minutes, so we should put it 10 minutes, because I agree with Dr. Amro that we should give a little bit more time in our country.
My logic is cerebral ischemia is 5 minutes all over the world. So let's have it done. Yes, so that
10 minutes is a reasonable thing.
10 minutes.
10 minutes is reasonable.
And then there is some chance that pancreas and all. How to resuscitate the organs.
So
let's go for
from the cardiac respiratory arrest. Okay. So I can lay down the protocol how to resuscitate the organs from the DCD.
We'll come to that.
I've done a lot of research.
Now
You don't need ECMO and all that. You need very simple
Sir, we are
things which can be used by the which are used in the cardiac theatre on daily basis.
Sir, we come to the next point, and that would be how Form 7 can be given a legal standing.
You know, the Form 7 which we have, which is like a donor card which we are using at the moment, where you have 2 witnesses to sign. And then there is, you you don't use this as a form. It's just expression of interest. So why is it in the law if it got no validity? In my question to the lawyers.
Sir, I was busy with the mic. Sir, could you please?
All of us have it. You know, a person who wants to, donate.
Yeah.
And he says that I, in my full senses, want to donate all my organs, and I sign it, then I have two witnesses who sign it. And then again, if family says no, you don't go forward. So the validity of Form 7 gets negated. So we want to know what's the validity of Form 7.
Sir,
Very clearly, taking re-consent from the patient's relatives, okay, that would be against the internationally accepted norms of consent. And even in India, sir, Anil Kumarji, even in India, we say that a patient who is undergoing intervention, if he is an adult, he is conscious, he is oriented, we don't need consent from anyone else. There are a plethora of case laws where doctors have been held negligent for taking consent from wives, children, grandchildren. Court's view is he is adult, he can give consent. The doctrine of consent as it is today.
Can he give consent for an event which is going to happen 40 years later? And that remains?
Yes, sir, yes. Maybe living means you have very clearly, sir,
We can form a law.
yeah. Then what's the purpose? What is the purpose?
There are some issues. I'm just highlighting.
Sure.
I'm just highlighting the issues. It is not my personal opinion. That one is that consent is given at a younger age, like when he may not be knowing the full consequences of the things that he is consenting to. Number one. But though it is after 18 years that is there, that he can only above 18 years he can sign this form. So that is there, witnesses are there, so that is fine. But like in that other bill which is coming up where advanced medical directive is to be written, there also it is being debated that somebody suppose is under depression. Out of depression he writes advanced medical directive. So does it need to be certified at that time of writing the advanced medical directive that this person was not having any mental illness at that time? Does it need to be certified by a psychiatrist? Similarly, suppose somebody writes images of depression, though this he can withdraw before any time. So that provision of withdrawal is also there. But are these enough?
No,
and what is the Indian societies? Like Indian societies is a family which is working here. Suppose a adult somebody has some religious misbelief, something is there. In the society there is a head of the family. Head of the family may not be even father, maybe some cow or some extended family is there. The head of that extended family comes into picture, says no, इसने दिया तो वो झगड़े शुरू हो जाएंगे. तो कि आप उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करना शुरू कर दोगे. And तो मतलब this kind of issues are there. So I'm just highlighting.
Sir, only one legal submission. Under the Indian Succession Act, you can make a will if you are 18 years old with only 2 witnesses. That is all. Sir, आप अपनी पूरी property किसी को दे सकते हो. You can decide whom you are going to disinherit and who will inherit.
But that will have to be registered somewhere.
No, sir. Registration is not compulsory under the Indian Succession Act.
Shall I tell you something?
Sir, that is a broader thing where this is the law.
Shall I tell you about this? Okay. First of all, this is something doing what you are telling Dr. Arun Kumar is something that is very clear. It is in our country we still do not have anything about the advanced directive at all. Except perhaps what you mentioned is about the latest mental health care bill or which have been passed by the Rajya Sabha. That is only as far as the ECB is concerned. You are right. So probably we have to have a law as far as the advanced directive, not only about doing it, not doing it, including the organ donation, and that has got to be a centralized thing, it should be registered. And then when it comes, I don't think you require the state of a relative at all. That's what, unless he himself will withdraw it subsequently.
And why I would support that, I also
Yeah, yeah,
feel
yeah. I
that
have a
the
big concern
relative.
about it, sorry. So I think that if we are going to, if somebody has said that I want to donate my organs, and if at that time the family says no, or if nobody in the family wants to do it, and if the hospital or the government forcibly forces them to do organ donation, this program, organ donation program, will go the sterilization way. So this is actually exactly opposite of what we want to do.
There is also a legal aspect to it. There is also
What you need to do is, actually what you need to do, once you have somebody who is carrying, you are going to have an organ donor registry today. We've been talked about repeatedly, where you are taking pledges, you are spending resources. You are going to check before it, when somebody comes to the casualty, you are going to check whether it's an organ donor registry or not.
What you need to do is, you can ask the family whether that person concerned has changed their mind or did this under depression or some other condition. If they say no, they not change his mind, he will do it under depression. Then according to whatever the rules and other days, you go forward. Then again, as family agrees that the wishes of the donor meet.
You are right in a way, but I think there is another law that will say
If you want them to protect
possessor,
you with that.
legal possessor. Who is the legal possessor of the
That is defined by the US by the way.
after the death?
Sir, I will tell you something, sir. Here the matter is, there are countries where this consent is put up on driving license. And that is where the whole process becomes more accessible.
It's going to happen in India too.
Yeah, so it's going to happen in India too. Then we can just click on to a computer and find out whether he wishes to be an organ donor or not. In my experience, in my experience, and this is obviously not about India, whenever there has been a yes from the patient, the family members have never gone against the wish, even abroad. So in India, where we have a very religious and nice family, most of them will agree to it. But the information needs to be accessible.
It is the last wish.
If you make it compulsory like that he is already given a consent, you don't need to talk to the family, it's not going to work.
No, you have to talk to the family.
You do not want to kill the program. So, but not can you consult the whole extended family, because in Haryana all the villages are family. You cannot do that. So it has to be the legal heir. That means the wife is alive, it will be wife, or it will be the eldest son.
But the wife will not say anything, some doubt will come up and they
No, but he
will decide.
cannot take another opinion.
But we have to take into account rules
So
for
the
very
hierarchy of the
forward.
decision making also.
Hierarchy can again,
Next of kin.
sir, hierarchy can't be decided because we have a Hindu Succession Act, we have a Muslim Succession Act, we have a Indian Succession Act. Which hierarchy are you going to follow?
Next of
See, when we have a patient in the hospital, we have one.
Sir, ये problem हो जाएगी.
मैं वही कह रहा हूँ कि who is the legal possessor of the body after the person has died?
If the wife is alive, it is the wife's first. Or
Sir, can I say that some
According to the religion that you are.
At the time of admission, we take picture of the kid. So, the person who takes the
We
patient.
have received requests from very old people that even if my son says no, even if my daughter says no, even if my wife says no, my organs should be donated and you have to ensure it. And people have taken the organs due to the court. This donation, somebody in the family took them because of this. So we have replied to these people that please make a living will, not this form. Make a living will and get it registered and keep that will with somebody who is some advocate and
Then we are complicating things.
You are complicating, but that is the
That's okay, like living donor, what is defined should be followed. If they want this consent, why is it given?
is different for different religion.
So the information of some of the current bill, which is in the public domain, the government education, has rejected the idea of demonstration.
Yes.
It has been taken
Yes.
up. Yeah, although there is a lot of pressure from civil society, it has been taken up. So I think the point of this talk is something very different. There is something called a donor card. do you put this form into the, I mean, that's what it is. Then why do you put the
Why?
form?
Take it out.
There is something called a donor is what you do for raising awareness. But why put the form? Is that the issue?
Yeah, take it out of the way.
Why we have made the form?
Sir.
Because when somebody is filling the form,
We get this
somebody is filling the
question
form.
repeatedly when we go for public education. They ask us that we are going to give you a form 7. Will you make sure that we go for formulation or not?
What the
And you say
form
no,
says.
they say why you want me to fill the form?
When somebody goes through the process of filling the form, he becomes lot more educated just by process of filling the form. So if you read okay, what he is filling in the form, I so and so son resident in the present mentioned below, authorize the removal of following organs or tissues from my body after being declared brain stem dead. The first word comes brain stem dead. So he will get a curiosity to know what is brain stem dead. So because this consent is to give brain stem dead, then he by the board of medical experts and consent to donate the same for therapeutic purposes. He is giving consent to donate only for therapeutic purposes, which the law allows. Law also allows only for therapeutic purposes, doesn't allow for academic or research purposes. So then he take the organs, he knows the organs which he can donate. There are list of organs listed over there. Then there are list of tissues listed over there. My blood group is this. If blood group has not been done, he would go for a blood group. So that kind of a process of filling the form itself makes him quite educated. So that was the whole purpose.
That can't be a reconsent of
We have written in the regarding the DCT we have written, following tissues can also be donated after brainstem death as well as cardiac death. Here we have not included organs for DCT in the form, in this form, because for the organs we have written after brainstem death and after declared.
So we should include
that.
Make a small amendment.
Yes, sir, please.
Number one, people who are taking account of farming, signing form 7, becoming a real donor is only 1 million. So this is largely a critical issue, number one. Number two, many times we change our opinions in our lives. We don't have changed opinions, so we don't. Number three, we have done close to 800 in Tamil Nadu. So, though the law says legal possessor of the body in singular, I adopt an exactly opposite view. Even if a single person opposes the family, we don't go ahead with the donation.
Yes.
Because we want that to be a united decision of the whole family. India is a feudal country. So the family bonds are quite strong. In one occasion, the family agreed, but the village head, head priest was expressing some reservation. But the wife was saying, no sir, we take that. I said, you will have to go back and live in your village. Today you can donate your organs. Tomorrow I am not going to come and tell you if there is a problem in your village, you are a young widow living alone. So you have to consider all these things. I can't go by the letter of the law. You have to go by the spirit of the law. It is a donation. It is not a coercion. It is not saying you have signed, therefore you must give organs. That is wrong. Let the whole family, this is what I adopt in my practice. I may be legal, illegal, I don't care. Only let me finish. So, my point is, whether they have signed or whether they have not signed, whether they have signed once, there are some suggestions saying that if a man has signed once, and then again he confirms it after 5 years, take it as signed or something. That's another view to take. But my view is, even if they have signed multiple times, and the end point is that when the family expresses a united decision to donate each day, if there are reservations, please respect those reservations too.
I totally agree with everything said here. Only thing is, we are talking about all donation district, the country in a big way. We talk about driving license will come in the next 6 months. If you want to come, because the transport also has agreed to do it.
Yeah.
So we need to have a dialogue on this. But what are we trying to achieve by this? Either we don't do it.
Nothing by it.
No, just creating awareness.
For just to create awareness, there are other ways of creating awareness. Why spend so much of resources you're filling the form, you're filling the form, sending it to the
that way, but
you're putting it in the register,
that
then you read on driving
is
license.
the law talks about. We ask the family. We ask the the sense that that person is listed in a form of the form.
And by the way,
The organ donation registry will take just 1 minute, not more than 1 minute to find out the name. You can find out through any multiple parameters the name of the person, like by even PIN code you can find out. So that will not take much of a time. So if one wants to find out, one wants to confirm.
I can tell you, Dr. Anil, having lived in the United States for 10 years, I tell you, I still hold a valid US driver's license as document as my US driver's license and bottom of my Indian license. Now, I don't live in the United States anymore, I'm based here, but I'll tell you this, US license has a red dot on it. On the dot it says donor. Now, I'll give you the European experience. In Spain, there is something called the opt-out policy. When you apply for a driver's license, you are given the option to opt out. Do you not wish to be a be an organ donor? Then the patient or the person is actually say no. So more donors come from Spain than, for example, from Germany. Germany has an opt-in policy. When you apply for a driver's license, the German person has asked, "Sir, would you like to donate your organs?" Then the person thinks, "Okay, maybe not." So I'll propose that we have an opt-out policy, and I'll politely disagree with what was said here that it will not work in this country. It will work. I'll tell you why. I come from the state of Kerala where organ donation was at rock bottom thanks to some scandals. Now it heads the country at 2.3 persons per million. Indian average is 0.34, and that's thanks to media. 0.4, yeah, 0.5 is coming up. So that's thanks to media, and every day in our part of the world, the newspaper carries stories of who donated organs today. So it's become a standard of care, standard of practice. So I'll propose very strongly that we lobby for universal driver's license donor in the country.
In fact, I'll take you a step forward. In Israel, what they've done is that if you are opt to be an organ donor, if you have organ failure, you get priority for a transplant.
Yes.
Okay. Whereas if you're not an organ donor, then you don't get the priority. So what has happened in Israel, everybody has become an organ donor. So that is to be used as a tool to promote organs. So if you want to have progressive,
do they actually become organ donor after?
No, not necessarily. If you propose to be an organ donor, then if you have organ failure, you will be given priority for a transplant compared to somebody who is not an organ. So is there even one step forward to make it more progressive and to promote organ?
So on this aspect, what does the House come to a conclusion?
I think the way you approach the family when you have this clause of organ donation or whether you form 7, that you need to speak to family, no questions about it. You need to take informed consent because that is the policy of the country, no doubt about it. So how do we approach the family? And if the family says no, what do we do? Is the question we need to answer. If the family says no, do we don't go forward?
Yeah.
Say the law as it is, you cannot. Sir.
I think as Dr. Rajiv has said, now we are in an era where the younger generation is more and more educated, and at the same time it's easy to convince them. So that problem gradually will decrease, that the family members are refusing. And as Sir has said, we can definitely have some encouragement like those if they develop the figure they will get that. So I think we should go with the basic consent as we have already discussed. That can be withdrawn at any time if he wants.
No additional consent from relatives, whether that is required or after Form 7 it's finished.
No, I don't think there is a need for.
There is a need.
There is a need.
As of now, I think because everybody is so worried and frightened about what the police will do, I think I think for everything there is like, what will police do? If the relatives go to the police.
We will get on the election and the family, and if I may make a statement, like I'm the person in the ICU when the patient dies. Now my teaching, my guidelines from the society tell me that the first thing I have to spread is patient autonomy, then I have to go by beneficence, non-beneficence and distributive justice. So going by these biological principles, if I am failing to honor the patient's autonomy, it bothers me as a physician. And I think that also should be considered whenever whatever.
Yeah, I'll tell you another example of this. I had a patient who was in ICU, who was brain dead. He was carrying a donor card. And when we wanted to take consent, the next of kin was not there. But he had a donor card. The next of kin was not available, but there was a friend who was available who was willing to say, please go ahead, since my friend has a donor card, please go ahead. And we were looking for next of kin from wife, brother, husband, whatever. And we couldn't find that person concerned. So when we asked the friend where is the person available, he is available in a distant village. So we tried to phone them, to take a phone consent at least, to find out what they wish of it. But we could not reach. So we are having a lot of these complex situations where we do lose donors. I mean, I'm agreeable that sometimes it's okay to lose donor because we want to create the program. We want this program not to be scandalized. So we let it go. We take a donation. But these situations will keep arising more and more as organ donation becomes more and more popular in this time. And as when it comes on driving license, it will become more mandatory for us to discuss this issue. Then what is the validity of this? What is the validity of Form 7? That's why we have brought this point to the floor.
What I would like to state is that first of all, Form 7 is very important because it brings out yes the person who wanted to donate during his lifetime or if he does not, if he has not registered. The second thing, many times the relatives are not aware of the wishes of the person when he was in his lifetime. So if you go through the registry, within a matter of few minutes we come to know, when the coordinators are sensitized, the head of the institutions are sensitized, they go through the registry and they tell the relatives, if the relatives are available, that this is the person had a wish. And by and large, we have to definitely, as per Indian law, get the next of kin signature.
You can call the motor helpline to find out if it is
Third, sir, as you said, if the relative is not available, for that also there is a provision under the Human Organ Act. If the next of kin is not available, sir, the head of the institution is then becomes the owner, they can give the consent. The head of the institution. So,
believe me,
okay.
this is all in the law.
So Dr. Shah, does the house, let us come down to are we going to skip the lunch? Do we all agree to skip lunch?
Just one comment and take the vote.
No, first thing let us.
Let's skip lunch.
The way out is a legal situation where you have a form which you are giving consent for organ donation, and there is another mandate which says that family consent is must. Okay, the interpretation in the hands of the legal people. That means some NGO should file a bill in the High Court or Supreme Court saying that please clarify which overrides what. That's once it goes to the court,
it helps to convince the
I know, but we're spending a lot of diligence.
So do we come to a consensus on Form 7?
Yes.
What is it?
We have something to fall back on.
Yes.
I think Dr. Shah does not agree. Sir, you
driving license becomes matter.
Yes,
driving license comes with millions of people signing up.
How many of us agree that yes, it should remain as the way it is?
It is something better.
And how many say that yes, change should come?
No, I'm saying that Form 7 let it remain, but what we need to do is, in the case where there is refusal to donation, how do we proceed is some kind of a legal thing can be given, a framework which can help us to proceed forward. That's what we are asking. That's what we are asking.
The law commission comes into picture.
That's why you come into
should clarify whether the consent which is given by the person who is doing versus wishes of the family members who are present in the body.
I suggest for that law commission should be told in general all advance directives and leading this thing which should include about organ donation, make it legally binding so that nobody else, for example, same thing can happen tomorrow. Somebody has told do not miss and it's already been registered in abroad. And even if the relative also continue, no, you need not have to do that because it is a legal thing, there is no need to do that. So unless and until that particular law is changed, it really doesn't have any meaning. So my suggestion is that let it be there and make it legal, that whenever such thing is there, so it will become absolutely okay.
If there is no willing relative or if there is no relative around or the relatives
No,
are willing,
there-
should supersede the unwillingness of the next of kin or supersede if there is no relative. Can we treat that as a problem?
It has to be level. I cannot.
If it is okay.
No, you should recommend.
Superseding if there is no relative or unwillingness.
That option is already there with the medical superintendent. For 48 hours, nobody is coming forward to claim the body, and they are maintaining the body on ventilator, etc., etc. They have got the right to
What will happen is, the reality is 2,000 patients relatives will take the body away. They will just take them home. If we start saying that they have to be forcefully donated, they will say thank you very much, we are going. Whether it's a public hospital or government hospital, they will not agree to it. So we are there on 4
donation. The word is donation as a doctor said it cannot be forced. We have written in our form that organ donation is a family decision. It is mentioned in the form itself. Form 7.
I'm asking another query. So legal people have to clarify for us. We would want this clarity. I have had one experience where the son, the brother, everybody on the patient was willing to make the donation. The wife was in the village. The Mohan Foundation people were willing to travel all the way to the village to take the consent. But these guys said we are willing to donate, but we don't want the wife to be signing, we don't want to be informing her. So who becomes the person in such a
Very good point, Arisha. So as we next of kin, a hierarchy of decision making in the event of organization has been defined, US they have defined it, because now what happens is, sometimes that's what happens all the time. So how do we make of kin? Who is in the position of the body?
Actually, this word
See, that is why Mr. Narendra Modi's government has the entire law commission today is seized with only one matter, Uniform Civil Code. So let us not go on Uniform Civil Code, it is outside the purview of our discussions. So without because there is a hierarchy prescribed under Muslim law. In Muslim also you have 2 laws. And much more than amongst those 2 you have Hanfi, you have others. Hindu law you have Hindu Succession Act which has defined grade 1, grade 2, grade 3.
So just
different
very briefly educate us on what do you mean by this hierarchy in Hindu law and Muslim law.
See, succession of property will pass according to Indian Succession Act or Hindu Succession Act or the Muslim law.
And so the hierarchy defined that?
Yeah, it is defined.
Also have dependent under the Government Compensation Act.
Very much different. In Muslim, women have no powers at all to decide anything.
So if the wife does not sign, then we cannot
So in the Muslim donor, you don't have to worry about the wife.
in the Muslim
Amongst Muslims also there are 2 schools. Shia Sunnis and even in Sunnis there are 2 schools.
And to which this Indian Succession Act applies because you have Hindu and Muslim already separate.
Yeah, and Indian Succession Act applies to Christians and it applies to mixed marriages also.
Yes, sir, there must be some.
So it's a very see, it's a balance cannot be equality like this.
Best partner, you have mixture of 2 wives.
So there must be some kind of insurance company must be formed. Who to pay the money after the death?
That Workers' Compensation Act has a series of dependents which is
I think on this we are not able to come to a conclusion. One last thing remains again, not very much in the 4 corners of law, and that is how can approaching families for organ donation, how can we strengthen the legal framework, what suggestions we have to strengthen the legal framework so that organ donation can really be a big thing in India. Ma'am, you start one by
Form 7 is one of those things.
Yeah.
Strengthen it.
I think sir, we already discussed a lot of elements to the
anything else?
Okay, one thing I use when I'm counseling families is Prime Minister Mann Ki Baat, where he has spoken about. So such, I think, communications coming from relevant areas.
So voluntary thing, let's not be legal framework. If you have processes which are legal, but not anything legalized to make a voluntary donation go into legalized donation.
Like gentlemen, it is compulsory to play before the movie starts. Same way organ donation, awareness, something should come on in all the movie theater after the gender fund, that one like. And second thing, on the TV channel, all TV channels awareness should be made compulsory to display that one message of organization save the life, whatever it could be. I think that can be.
Yeah, actually awareness very limited and that can help, and the legal provision is there that now doctors and transplant coordinators are required to request and for organ donation, so that may become, but it is still, I agree that it is a donation, it should not be forced, and it has to be just conveyed, the family have to be convinced. We can involve professional counselors, we can involve trained transplant coordinators, which is one foundation has been doing for so many years. Like these efforts are definitely they help, and any other Form 7, that is one of the where we say it's a family decision. So you have to involve the family in the filling of that form, your witnesses, all those. Some kind of incentive. I don't know whether it will work or not.
What I would suggest is
I think I already discussed, basically the awareness and counseling both are required. I think last 1 month back I was seeing one WhatsApp message that a billionaire is dumping his Mercedes car in the burial. I think something like that has to be done.
A celebrity endorsement and non-monetary incentive are what are needed. Non-monetary can be education for the child or expected, etc. by hierarchy.
and this also should probably include it in school curriculum, chapters very important, so it is implanted from the next generation, and then they grow with it. And also, as I said, at the cost of repetition, I would say in Amitabh Bachchan's appearance of that two boon can wipe out smallpox. I think Shah Rukh Khan or Amir Khan or somebody as what we call Dr. Raji said, a celebrity, and then I'm sure in the next 5 to 10 years we'll have our urologists, nephrologists, intensivists very active, and no law is required, and you can just go.
Every brainstem that should be approached, every family of a brainstem that should be approached for the requirements. I think it should be all immediately or whatever should be very much taken on record that as a family we approach this.
I think more awareness is required in this.
Yes, I think what you said right. Absolutely, law is not important. It is awareness which is absolutely essential. First of all, we have to think non-monetary incentives to the family or something like that can be thought about it. I don't know what, for example, in blood donation used to have, if at all you require in future, the way he is told about the thing that what is right, that person can be given a preference. Whether one of the members can be given preference in future if at all it is required. This kind of a incentive can be thought about it.
It will make our life and neurosurgeons very easy if we are allowed legally to tell the patient that the ventilator can be turned off if you declare the patient brain dead. Because that is a dichotomous situation. If you don't turn it off, they say that the patient still is alive and you are trying to do the patient something off. And this thing happened just very recently with me, and the family was really upset. And actually one of the guy was a senior IS officer and advisor to the and he came to the hospital and he created a huge atlas that we are doing organ training and that kind of stuff. So if you are legally allowed to register off with the patient, then get printed. That should be the
And while I agree with all of you, our take is different. You have what is 4,000 donations. We have a lot of long experience on what happens. Our conversion rate of trained transplant coordinator talking on organ donation to the family is loan becoming yes 65%, which is similar to the rest of the world. And we have published this as well, both in corporate sector and public sector. So our challenge is never been in public domain. I repeatedly say this because we are talking with experience of both organizations. If you look at donation program today, 28,000 people in this country every year do that. 28,000 people today. And they do it out of their free will. If you look at organ donation, last year 570 donations we had. And many of the donations came from the family. So, but our challenge is more in the hospital only. Before educating the public, and we keep doing that, have chapters in the books and so on. We already have a chapter in Maharashtra in the book on high standard. We have the Robert test kind of work. We need to educate our doctors. We need to have a chapter on brain death in our syllabus at MBBS level. MCI needs to be approached. We need to have it at postgraduate level. Because if we don't educate our own doctors, we have all the problems of not declaring brain death, not understanding brain death and so on. So before we educate the public as doctor community, MCI has to take it up, NOTO has to write to MCI, they can put pressure and say we need to educate our own lot first. Please don't worry about the public domain. You certify brain death and you will have enough, organizations. You don't need to certify brain death, you don't need to identify brain death. So where are we talking about our donation? Where is the opportunity to counsel? There are big hospitals, corporate hospitals sitting in Delhi, we don't even identify brain death. So where will the counselor talk? So my suggestion, Anil Kumar, is please write to MCI.
We have given we had written already, but we did not get any response. So we had written already.
MCI already is in troubles. But
Tomorrow what we have done is we got we have said that there is something called professional, development lecture every month once for MBBS student. So what we have told MCI is include brain death and organ donation in the professional development of MBBS students. And we do that.
Part of the curriculum.
If you are not able to do curriculum, at least do that.
We have already written to MCI, but we did not get any written response from them. We will try it again.
But professional development, that CME which is done once a
CME,
month,
yes.
that they will include it as part of the curriculum every day.
Yeah. Dr. Pratibha.
Even hospitals themselves can have, their own, training programs where the intensive, intensivists and all, are sure once you do this much, each one can certify, or we have these 2 people who are to be called, and certification of brain death becomes easier.
Is there some way, to the legal fraternity, but to the government, is there some way that we can do organ donation mass awareness by the government? Because no NGO can afford or has the money to or resources to do that. Just like we did for eye donation many years ago, on a national level in the media. That's very
3 days back there was rally of the Maharashtra.
Yeah, I think it's lunchtime, so I got a lot of thanks. This was a really good session, and all the doubts I myself had because I'm a lawyer, I don't understand medicine that much. I got a lot of clarity as to what is the problem faced on the ground and what the law needs to propose. I've written them down. I'll give them to Bajpai sir and take it forward. Thank you all so much. Thanks for coming.
Join us for the plenary session.